in Italian. Abbiamo il piacere di avere qua la nostra presidente di IFLA Europe, che è Caterina Golzio, e lei diciamo che è la madrina, la responsabile del gruppo che ha lavorato per questa conferenza, il gruppo MedNet e il gruppo Agricultural Landscapes, che dopo vi spiegheremo come funziona tutto questo. Ringrazio Sabrina Alfonsi dell'assessorato ambiente di Roma Capitale e l'assessore all'urbanistica sempre di Roma Capitale, Maurizio Veloccia, che diranno due parole di saluto a tutti voi. Loro ci hanno sostenuto in questa preparazione e spiegheranno loro in quale modo sono legati all'architettura del paesaggio. Possiamo iniziare? Caterina? Yes. Yes. Caterina will speak English. We have a translation service. Abbiamo un servizio di traduzione. Caterina parla in inglese.
Thank you, Uta. Can we... Yes, now you can hear me. So good morning, buongiorno, kalimera. Since I'm coming from Greece, I have to say the Greek word. Really, astonished guests and members, it is a pleasure to be here. And I would like, on behalf of IFLA Europe, the European Federation of Landscape Architects, to extend a very warm welcome to all of you for the Bauhaus for Med conference. As you can see on the title, is Coastal Landscapes from Protection to Production, Nature-Based Solutions and Sustainable Project in Mediterranean Countries. It is organized by Bauhaus for Med, IFLA Europe MedNet, IFLA Europe Agricultural Landscape Working Groups, and we're going to talk more during the day about Bauhaus for Med Interact project that IFLA Europe is one of the partners. But before that, I would like to express my gratitude and thanks to, sorry about my Italian accent now, Consiglio Nazionale degli Architetti Pianificatori, Paesaggisti e Conservatori, Istituto Nazionale d'Architettura and Roma Capitale for supporting this event and really helping us to the whole organization. But I would like to express also my gratitude to EAP, the Italian Association of Landscape Architects, and our sponsors, Hunter Industry, who is with us for co-funding this event. And our conference today is a dual conference. Actually, it's a conference that IFLA Europe's working group MedNet and our agricultural working group, they're organizing, and they are going to present project to all of you related to coastal landscapes. Something about, just a few words about MedNet, the Mediterranean network, which really consists for 3 regions, Europe, Africa, and Middle East. And it's an honor today that we have also the president of Middle East region, Jara Makazumi, who is going to speak later on, give the keynote speech. The MedNet meeting takes place actually every year in a different Mediterranean country with a different topic. This year, the Italian Association, they offer to host the meeting in Rome, and thanks to EAP, and I would like to express my gratitude to the president, Andrea Cassone, the delegate Marco Marinari, and the chairs of the groups, which Uta Mutham Georgi and Francesca Neonato, and all the members that are here today for really helping us with that. What is the aim? The aim of the MedNet working group is to bring together countries which are bordering the Mediterranean, and they share, of course, all these climatic, environmental and cultural characteristics and particularities, which are really very important to share and really speak about it. The Agricultural Landscape Working Group, on the other hand, has members from all over Europe related, and they are dealing with common projects related to agriculture and how agriculture as a sector affecting our landscapes. So the conference today aims really to give an emphasis to coastal landscapes, because especially on the Mediterranean, due to all these specificities and values, and especially because the Mediterranean is characterized by landscape diversity, this cultural and historical plurality and tradition. And I believe that through this series of projects that you are going all to see today, you will really see this transformation of changes that are happening due to many sectors, but also the intention here is to show the valuable role of landscape architects and how through design, planning and management they really can contribute significantly. So I believe it's a great opportunity to raise awareness about our landscape, since our speakers are coming from different disciplines, from different countries and different background, and really to give this joint approach, how we can contribute to this green-blue transformation, especially for sustainable green living landscape. So I wish a very success to the conference, and I hope you will all enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Caterina.
And something, sorry, I forgot it was on my notes here, which really sorry about that. We're here today because of the National Association of Contractors, and I really would like to thank them for hosting us in this beautiful room and in this beautiful space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Caterina.
Sì, grazie, benvenuti e benvenute, grazie. Grazie alla Presidente, grazie all'architetta Tullio che ci ha coinvolto in questo consesso e in queste lavorazioni, perché lo dirà poi anche l'assessore Veloccia, Roma diciamo, è molto interessata a questi studi, a questi confronti, a queste buone pratiche e soluzioni per difendere e mantenere il nostro paesaggio, ma soprattutto per riuscire a costruire Roma come una metropoli sostenibile che possa guardare agli anni futuri e quindi a vincere la sfida del cambiamento climatico e di rendere appunto questa città una città dove è possibile vivere. Sappiamo tutti benissimo che nei prossimi anni in realtà più del 75% della popolazione mondiale vivrà nelle città, e le città sono il maggior luogo di produzione di inquinamento, con tutti gli aspetti che noi ci portiamo appresso, a partire non so, dalle isole di calore che bisogna assolutamente contrastare. Per questo motivo Roma ha fatto un piano clima che nelle sue azioni ovviamente mette la parte naturale della città al primo posto. Roma è formata, così la raccontiamo, di un terzo costruito, un terzo verde e un terzo agricolo. All'interno di questo terzo verde ha un bacino idrografico importante, 18 km di costa, il fiume Tevere, il fiume Aniene, il fiume Almone, diversi laghetti. Pensiamo che proprio a partire dalla rinaturalizzazione, dalla cura di questo verde, noi possiamo appunto cambiare il verso diciamo di questa città. E poi c'è questa parte, ne parlavamo prima, un terzo è agricolo. Molte delle terre agricole sono coltivate, ma molte sono assolutamente invece abbandonate, quindi anche qui con la cura di quelle terre, con la cura di quel paesaggio, anche da un punto di vista architettonico, la famosa campagna romana, l'agro che entra in città, noi dobbiamo tutelare il paesaggio, ma nel frattempo tutelare il suolo, perché è quel suolo che può far respirare ovviamente la città. E quindi stiamo appunto facendo diversi progetti. Uno tra i più importanti è quello della fruizione del grande Tevere. Proprio domani purtroppo non riusciamo a incrociare con i vostri lavori, ma c'è l'inaugurazione di questo parco Taffaccio, che abbiamo ripreso il toponimo storico, che sono i prati dell'acqua acetosa. Sono 8 ettari e mezzo sul fiume che erano completamente ricoperti di rifiuti e di attività che erano assolutamente incompatibili rispetto ad un parco che affaccia sul fiume, anche perché ovviamente c'era una produzione poi di inquinamento attraverso questi rifiuti nell'acqua assolutamente importante. Ecco, quindi risarcimento alla natura attraverso questa bonifica, perché in questo caso non si è trattato solo di rimozione di rifiuti, ma di una vera e propria bonifica con tanto di campionatura su tutto il livello appunto dei suoli, e quindi anche con degli interventi importanti, che voi capite bene, di rimessa della terra nuova affinché appunto si potesse proprio rendere fruibile, e dopo questo la fruizione da parte della cittadinanza. Noi con questi parchi d'affaccio diamo la possibilità a intere zone della città che non hanno parchi di avere un punto di verde, e quindi all'interno appunto della lotta alle disuguaglianze sociali, economiche, culturali, c'è anche le disuguaglianze ambientali, perché abbiamo intere parti della popolazione di Roma che non ha la possibilità di fruire del verde come altre parti. E quindi mi fermo qui perché non voglio essere troppo lunga, è un saluto, ma il lavoro con voi da tutti questi punti di vista, mare, erosione, c'è un grande investimento, lo dirà l'assessore Veroccia, e anche lì tutela della parte naturale, perché noi abbiamo la riserva nella nostra parte di costa, le dune di Capocotta, la riserva di Castel Porziano che è la tenuta del Presidente, la riserva di Castelfusano, quindi anche rispetto appunto al tema specifico della costa siamo appunto veramente interessati, diciamo, rispetto a tutti questi 3 punti. Lo scambio con la comunità scientifica, con le associazioni che come voi appunto fanno rete rispetto anche alle buone soluzioni, per noi sono assolutamente necessarie, un po' il pane per poi poter lavorare e operare sul territorio. Quindi grazie, buone giornate, buone visite, perché farete anche delle cose molto belle in giro per la città, e continuiamo a lavorare insieme.
Grazie Sabina Alfonsi. La prenderemo in parola per la questione della rete, perché adesso è a maglie molto larghe, ma penseremo di infittirli, quindi i nostri rapporti saranno migliorati. Assessore Veroccia.
Sì, grazie. Intanto ovviamente grazie per l'invito. Per me è molto utile e importante poter anche provare, oltre a quello che ha detto l'assessora Alfonsi, a contribuire appunto a dare un po' una visione, secondo me, anche di cambiamento che questa città sta assumendo nei confronti delle tematiche che voi affrontate in generale, cioè sul tema del paesaggio e in particolare anche sul tema della costa, e non solo della costa, ma più in generale proprio dell'acqua, nel senso che Roma forse ha vissuto un periodo lungo, in cui il tema del paesaggio è stato un po' derubricato rispetto al tema dello straordinario patrimonio storico e archeologico che è la città, per cui il paesaggio in qualche modo era sostanzialmente immerso dentro questo patrimonio ed era quasi autoconsistente, cosa che invece non è vera, nel senso che noi purtroppo nel tempo, soprattutto per quanto riguarda la costa e anche il fiume Tevere, noi queste 2 enormi risorse non le abbiamo considerate in questi termini, in termini anche di sviluppo, e li abbiamo considerati sostanzialmente come qualcosa di risulta rispetto alla città, perché la città era sostanzialmente il suo centro storico per quanto riguarda l'enorme patrimonio storico-archeologico che ha la città, e poi invece un tessuto più periferico che doveva in qualche modo riuscire a svolgere una funzione di compensazione in termini di gestione della città, cioè le persone sono state espulse dal centro per andare a vivere nelle periferie, tutte le attività produttive sono state messe nelle zone semi o periferiche, e si è dimenticato il mare e si è dimenticato il fiume, anzi molto spesso l'assessore sta recuperando tante aree fluviali. Noi stiamo facendo un progetto strategico operativo proprio sul Tevere. Il fiume dove è nata la vita di tutte le città, è stato considerato un luogo sostanzialmente o pericoloso, perché poteva ovviamente essere un problema idrogeologico, oppure addirittura un luogo di scarto dove appunto sono state talvolta accumulati rifiuti, talvolta purtroppo anche situazioni di fortuna di persone che sono andate lì a vivere, e il mare sostanzialmente non è stato considerato. Il rapporto di Roma con il suo mare è un rapporto dimenticato. Quindi, insomma, cambiare questa narrazione e provare a cambiare con delle azioni questo approccio non è facile. Noi lo stiamo provando a fare proprio sulla costa, e quindi mi fa molto piacere poterne parlare qui, perché il tema della costa e di quella che è circa 18 km, 20 km di costa che ha Roma Capitale, e che sostanzialmente non è mai stata valorizzata fino in fondo, è un grande tema per la città, ed è un grande tema che ha anche a che fare con il paesaggio, e è un tema che ha a che fare con col paesaggio anche in rapporto ovviamente a degli assi di sviluppo della città. Noi oggi abbiamo un pezzo di Roma che si chiama Ostia, che sembra quasi una città a sé stante, in cui lo sviluppo costiero è ancora legato a 100 anni fa, quando nascono i primi stabilimenti balneari, e sostanzialmente la parte del cosiddetto waterfront è una parte dove, se voi andate, ci sta una sorta di un'autostrada, 4 corsie che permettono l'accesso e l'ingresso dalla città di Roma. Noi stiamo provando a stravolgere tutto questo attraverso un'azione molto determinata sul tema dell'arenile, e attraverso anche un progetto molto ambizioso proprio sul tema della costa. Abbiamo fatto delle analisi molto importanti anche rispetto proprio alle isole di calore, e diciamo l'area in questione è di per sé totalmente un'isola di calore. Abbiamo fatto delle verifiche strumentali che sono state molto esaustive da questo punto di vista in termini di criticità, e oggi abbiamo scelto che una delle strategie fondamentali di sviluppo attraverso i fondi FESR della nuova programmazione fosse da destinare ad Ostia, al mare di Roma, attraverso un grande progetto di totale depavimentazione del lungomare di Ostia, di ricostituzione di un parco e di un assetto dunale, del trasferimento della mobilità nella parte retrostante l'affaccio sul mare attraverso una mobilità locale, attraverso una mobilità dolce, una mobilità alternativa, attraverso ad esempio delle navette elettriche che dovranno permettere di connettere l'Arenile con i parcheggi di scambio che verranno realizzati nella parte retrostante del lungomare, e appunto una grande operazione di circa 25 milioni di euro per andare a depavimentare tutta questa asse autostradale sostanzialmente che oggi è presente lì, realizzare un sistema retrodunale, creare nuovi spazi di aggregazione, sostanzialmente fare quello che è stato fatto in tante altre città italiane, insomma, che si sta facendo in alcune città, che si è fatto in altre, penso ad esempio a Rimini, e quindi c'è un lavoro fondamentale che ha a che fare evidentemente con discipline che dovranno sovrapporsi, dovranno interagire tra loro, dalla mobilità, ma sicuramente il tema paesaggistico sarà un tema fondamentale. In questo modo noi pensiamo che non soltanto faremo bene alla città, ma faremo bene anche all'economia della città, nel senso che questo potrà essere anche un modo per cambiare l'interpretazione che hanno i cittadini romani e non romani del rapporto della città col mare. Già lì noi stiamo investendo molto, per esempio, su un turismo differente, che non sia quello appunto del mordi e fuggi, del sabato e della domenica, come era quello di 100 anni fa, dei romani che andavano a mangiarsi una cosa a Ostia, ma appunto un turismo più strutturato, un turismo che possa essere anche direttamente connesso con la fruizione del mare, non come un'attività di risulta rispetto alla visita a Roma, un turismo di ritorno, quindi per chi ritorna a Roma e non visita per una volta solo nella vita la città, ed anche altre tipologie di persone che possono andare a vivere Ostia. Per esempio penso alla grande scommessa che abbiamo fatto sull'Università del Mare, quindi la possibilità che Ostia possa diventare anche un polo di formazione importante, aperto non soltanto alla città ma al mondo, in cui si possano appunto studiare alcune grandi materie come quella che è l'ingegneria del mare, che si è appena trasferita dall'Università di Roma 3, quindi dalla zona di Ostiense proprio a Ostia. Quindi è un lavoro in fieri ovviamente che riguarda la costa di Roma, riguarda il fiume della città, riguarda la rivisitazione anche dei paesaggi romani, perché Roma, questa è l'altra cosa incredibile, ha del costruito evidentemente, ma i 2/3 del Comune di Roma sono inedificati, e quindi il tema dei vuoti e il tema dei paesaggi non costruiti è un tema fondamentale della nostra città. Grazie.
Grazie mille, Assessore Velocia. Siamo tutti molto curiosi di sapere come si svolge questo cambio di narrativa. Siamo con lei e spero lei con noi. Vorrei chiamare il Presidente del Consiglio Nazionale degli Architetti. Grazie mille. Mi scuso perché ci siamo persi da qualche parte il suo cavalierino, sì, cavalierino. La chiedo di introdursi con il nome.
Buongiorno, assolutamente nessuna scusa, sono Massimo Crusi che rappresento qui nella qualità di Presidente del Consiglio Nazionale degli Architetti, Pianificatori, Paesaggisti, Conservatori d'Italia. Noi come Consiglio Nazionale facciamo parte anche di strutture diciamo, europee e internazionali come il CAE, come l'UIA e come l'UMAR, che è quello che raggruppa i paesi. Ringrazio per l'invito. Ieri noi siamo stati felicissimi di accogliere nella nostra sede IFLA Europa, e ringrazio molto AIA che AIAP che ci ha consentito di avere questo contatto e questa attività di collaborazione. Sono previsti saluti e quindi non mi dilungo, non voglio sottrarre tempo alla vostra attività, che è preziosa e che prevede degli illustri relatori e degli esempi concreti su che cosa oggi come tema andate a trattare. Ecco, mi soffermo sul tema che prima ho avuto modo di fare i complimenti alla Presidente di IFLA Europa, cioè paesaggi costieri dalla produzione e dalla protezione alla produzione. Ecco, l'Italia è un paese che ha 8.300 km di costa, di cui 7.500 sono costa naturale. E il titolo ci sta benissimo, perché dalla protezione alla produzione. C'è quell'altra parte che è già produzione, o comunque già parte che è stata utilizzata da porti, da villaggi, da paesi, e che probabilmente ha già compromesso quel paesaggio. e su quella parte bisognerebbe, diciamo, fare un ragionamento forse al contrario, dalla produzione alla protezione. Ma ovviamente non si può proteggere qualcosa che magari è stata compromessa, quindi a quel punto si chiamerebbe rigenerazione, cioè recuperare paesaggio, recuperare ambiente che possa in qualche modo restituirlo alla sua diciamo, situazione vera. Poi non dobbiamo dimenticare che la costa di per sé viene immaginata come dal lato del territorio, ma dal lato diciamo, del paesaggio blu e quindi delle autostrade del mare, dell'attività da diporto, quindi tutto quello che viene visto dall'altra parte di quel paesaggio e che viene coinvolto all'interno di questo, diciamo, vivere la costa, ecco, diventa un elemento di altra importanza centrale. Ovviamente gli assessori mi hanno anticipato tutto il tema delle città e quindi sotto questo punto di vista le città nella loro più ampia accezione, è vero, il 75, ma forse anche l'80% nel 2050 vivrà nelle città della popolazione mondiale e sono un elemento di grande attrazione di produzione ma anche di creazione di realtà che possono compromettere ancora di più il nostro vivere su questa terra, che è un bene unico, che vista dallo spazio è tutta verde, bianco e blu, ma poi vissuta da noi, tutto questo verde, bianco e blu a volte non lo teniamo in conto. Quindi complimenti per il tema, complimenti per i lavori, che siano proficui, che vi diano, diciamo, la massima capacità di poter dare a noi, tutti quanti, sia operatori del settore, ma anche cittadini, la capacità di affrontare culturalmente e con un'attività, diciamo, razionale quello che in qualche modo nel passato non siamo riusciti a fare. Grazie a voi.
Grazie mille e grazie per questo aspetto, cioè che ci ha fatto capire l'aspetto della duplice visione da noi verso il mare e dal mare verso di noi, cioè è molto importante questo. Grazie mille. Ringrazio veramente tutti voi che con grande generosità non avete solo portato dei saluti formali, ma avete proprio contribuito e vi siete occupati di capire di che cosa stiamo parlando, quindi ne sono molto grata di questo. Grazie. Per chiudere i saluti, ovviamente i padroni di casa, 2 secondi.
Consiglio dell'Ordine Architetti. Scusate, un breve saluto anche da Flavio Trinca che oltre che essere nostro iscritto ci porta anche i saluti del Presidente dell'Ordine degli Architetti di Roma.
Grazie Sara, io sono pessimo, ve ne renderete conto nella mattinata sui nomi, cariche, cose, quindi mi scuso per qualsiasi errore in anticipo.
Allora intanto buongiorno, grazie per la presentazione a Sara, ma grazie anche a Uta. Come dire, io non ho particolarità, cariche, in questo momento sono qui semplicemente come sostituto temporaneo per portarvi i saluti del Presidente dell'Ordine degli Architetti di Roma, che è impegnato in altre questioni istituzionali all'estero, quindi non è potuto essere presente e mi ha chiesto di essere qui a portare i saluti, in quanto io all'interno dell'Ordine mi occupo della formazione, in particolare proprio del percorso formativo del paesaggio. Sono un architetto, ma come è stato detto sono anche socio AIAP, mi occupo da tanti anni di paesaggio, sono molto contento di questo tema, che evidentemente è un tema centrale nel dibattito culturale contemporaneo. Questi giorni si è inaugurata la Biennale di Venezia, il Padiglione Italia curato dall'amica Gwendalina Salimei è dedicato proprio al tema dei paesaggi costieri. Noi come ordine, come attività formativa e culturale ci siamo già occupati spesso di questo tema, lo riteniamo un tema centrale e fondamentale, soprattutto in un paese come l'Italia, in cui si è detto che a parecchie migliaia di chilometri sono rappresentati dalle nostre coste. Io mi vorrei semplicemente concentrare su un termine che è presente in questa in queste giornate di lavoro, nel titolo di queste giornate di lavoro, che è il termine della produzione, che lo trovo un termine molto corretto da utilizzare, non in alternativa ma accompagnato alla protezione, perché il tema della produzione significa la vita, il lavoro, la presenza dell'umanità, che poi è quella che costruisce i paesaggi, all'interno di questi ambiti paesaggistici. Se non pensiamo che questo tema è un tema che, come dire, produce ricchezza, che è ricchezza non solo economica, anzi, ma è ricchezza di vita, ricchezza di socialità e di società, non riusciamo assolutamente a poi proteggere e tutelare i nostri paesaggi. Il paesaggio costiero italiano è stato caratterizzato da sempre, nei secoli, da importantissimi rapporti con il mare. Roma, non ce lo dimentichiamo, è una città anch'essa di mare, no? I romani avevano qui i loro porti importanti, Ostia Antica era a tutti gli effetti il porto di Roma, e bisogna ricominciare a pensare il tema del rapporto della città e del territorio con il paesaggio e con il paesaggio di margine dato da questa linea di demarcazione presente tra territorio e paesaggio marino, che, come ha detto giustamente il nostro Presidente del Consiglio nazionale degli architetti, deve essere visto anche dall'altro lato, che è fondamentale, ma anche dal punto di vista produttivo, che secondo me non è solamente il tema della produzione turistica, ma è proprio un tema di produzione di occasioni e opportunità affinché questi luoghi vengano vissuti. Non possiamo continuare a considerare, come ad esempio nella nostra città, questi luoghi come luoghi altri, marginali. Ostia è un'altra città. Non è possibile, ma anche le aree portuali sono un'altra città. Mi fa molto piacere che si parla di questo qui oggi a Roma e che ne hanno parlato i due assessori. Io mi sono trovato spesso ad occupare del tema dei paesaggi di lungomare e quasi sempre mi sono rivolto fuori, all'estero o in altre città. Mi fa molto piacere che forse me ne potrò occupare anche nelle mie città. Grazie.
Ti prenderemo in parola. È stato registrato quest'ultimo. E last but not least, Andrea Cassone, che è il presidente di AIAP, che effettivamente ha reso possibile che questa joint venture, questa conferenza è stata ospitata qui in Italia. Grazie.
Grazie Uta, buongiorno a tutti, grazie della vostra presenza stamattina. In realtà il ringraziamento per la giornata di oggi e tutta la mia manifestazione di riconoscenza va al complesso di tutti coloro che hanno reso possibile l'incontro di oggi, quindi in primis a Caterina, la nostra Presidente, a IFLA Europe, a Bauhaus for Med, ai gruppi di lavoro in IFLA Europe, il gruppo di lavoro sul network mediterraneo e il gruppo di lavoro sui paesaggi dell'agricoltura. Va ovviamente al Comune di Roma, all'Ordine degli Architetti e al CNA, che si sono tanto adoperati perché la cornice di questo evento fosse la migliore possibile. Quindi, un debito poi speciale di riconoscenza va al gruppo che si è occupato di organizzare tutto ciò in maniera impeccabile. E quindi a Uta, Francesca, Cristina, Sara e a tutti coloro che si sono spesi perché tutto ciò fosse possibile. Confesso che nella insicurezza degli orari d'arrivo dei treni mi ero preparato veramente poche parole di saluto e di indirizzo Confermo questa mia intenzione, cercando di essere il più sintetico possibile, perché credo che i lavori di oggi meritino il maggior spazio e il maggior tempo possibile. Quindi vorrei semplicemente augurarvi un buon lavoro di approfondimento e di studi sul tema dei paesaggi delle coste e del Mediterraneo, visti sotto l'aspetto della transizione da un punto di vista e un'attitudine prevalentemente di protezione ad un'attenzione speciale al tema della produzione. Questa attenzione speciale mi porta naturalmente, e mi ricollego a quello che diceva prima Flavio, con cui sono ovviamente interamente d'accordo, in piena sintonia. Il tema della produzione richiama il tema immediatamente legato ad esso, che è quello del tema delle relazioni. Perché ogni volta che c'è produzione necessariamente c'è relazione, quindi il tema delle relazioni diventa un tema fondamentale in ambito mediterraneo, anche perché parliamo, oltre che di produzione, con tutti i livelli che essa comporta, anche di sistemi di produzione che hanno a che fare con l'acqua, che è una, se non la via principale di comunicazione e di relazione in ambito mediterraneo. Quindi l'auspicio condiviso con Uta e con Francesca è che dai lavori di oggi, anche viste le iniziative veramente molto interessanti che stanno gemmando da questi gruppi, l'auspicio è che dai lavori di oggi si possa progressivamente costituire una sorta di laboratorio permanente sulle relazioni costali fra i paesi del Mediterraneo in tema di paesaggio, perché mi piace ricordare qui che oltre che il 75esimo di AIAP, quest'anno AIAP, l'Associazione Italiana di Architettura del Paesaggio, compie 75 anni, l'anno in corso è anche il compleanno, diciamo, la ricorrenza dei 25 anni della Convenzione Europea del Paesaggio di Firenze. La Convenzione Europea del Paesaggio, all'articolo 1, dà una definizione di paesaggio che è assolutamente rivoluzionaria e, a mio modo di vedere, ancora non pienamente compresa, e assegna a chi si occuperà di paesaggio un ruolo fondamentale e sovraordinato a tutti gli altri livelli di progettazione, necessariamente sovraordinato, mi piace sottolineare. Questo ruolo di progettazione sovraordinato ci chiama ad una speciale responsabilità, che è la responsabilità di saper organizzare e dirigere in forma di regia gruppi e squadre di lavoro estese a tutte le componenti del progetto e delle trasformazioni in essere nelle varie società che si affacciano sul Mediterraneo. Questa capacità di fare regia dobbiamo saperla anche trasferire dall'aspetto tecnico dei progetti di paesaggio all'aspetto istituzionale delle relazioni fra le associazioni che partecipano di questo ambito mediterraneo. E questo è quello che ci piacerebbe fare insieme, a partire da oggi, costruire un rapporto di regia comune che faccia di questo luogo straordinario che è il mare Mediterraneo un esempio di relazione costruttiva in termini di strutturazione di un paesaggio ecumenico, nel vero senso del termine, che rappresenti e possa rappresentare al meglio quello che ogni paesaggio deve fare, il teatro delle nostre esistenze. Vi auguro buon lavoro e spero di poter condividere con voi alcuni di questi temi nei vari break che avremo durante la giornata. Grazie mille.
Grazie Andrea. Adesso grazie mille, arrivederci. Alla prossima. Ok. Chiedo a Francesca di venire qua, non mordo, stamattina prometto. Sì. E nel programma c'è scritto che ci prendiamo 15 minuti per presentare cos'è IFLA Med Network Group e il gruppo di lavoro sui paesaggi rurali. Taglieremo a 5 minuti perché così cominciamo a compensare un po', perché avevamo quest'idea di stare in tempo su tutti gli interventi. Io ho bacchettato i miei colleghi per tenere i loro interventi in tempo. Speriamo di non andare a prendere ritardi troppo esosi. Francesca, tu puoi iniziare a raccontare che cosa è il
Sì,
tuo
molto
gruppo.
brevemente, anche perché Caterina ha già presentato in breve, in brief. Parlo in inglese o in italiano? Vabbè, in italiano. In breve il gruppo di lavoro. Perché paesaggi produttivi costiere e l'agricoltura? Perché la salute dei paesaggi costieri dipende dall'agricoltura, da tutto quello che viene fatto a monte, da una gestione capillare, attenta, quotidiana. E l'agricoltura è la nostra ultima frontiera, perché è l'unico caso in cui le comunità direttamente si prendono cura del territorio. Trasformare tutto in un parco significa delegare a qualchedun altro. Invece è questo saper fare che si è evoluto nei secoli, che ha portato a delle forme di gestione virtuose, che consentono la conservazione della fertilità del suolo, cioè la vita terrestre del pianeta, che consentono di avere acqua potabile sana, che consentono di avere cibo che è espressione culturale. Food is landscape. Landscape is food. Da tutto il mondo vengono nel Mediterraneo per la dieta mediterranea. Pensiamoci, è un modello ideale e un modello reale, è un'attenzione quotidiana che facciamo al nostro paesaggio ma anche alla nostra salute, è un insieme di relazioni di comunità. Noi dobbiamo essere molto attenti a sostenere queste comunità perché sono gli ultimi che ancora lavorano quotidianamente per noi e noi possiamo scegliere di vivere in un modo sano, di vivere in un modo sociale, di condividere aspetti culturali. La parola agricoltura contiene il concetto di cultura, che è l'espressione più fine, più alta di questa capacità di saper fare, artigianato, bellezza, sapienza, conoscenza. Per questo IFLA Europe ha sempre molto sostenuto e ringrazio Caterina in particolare per questo gruppo di lavoro che è l'espressione, non è in contrapposizione con l'aspetto urbano, ma le città sono ecosistemi anomali, energivori, dipendono completamente dal territorio che le circonda per il dissesto idrogeologico, per il cibo, per l'acqua, per l'energia, per le materie prime, per tutte. Io vengo da una regione, la Liguria, che è l'espressione massima, perché è una sottile striscia di montagne direttamente a contatto col mare. E adesso l'abbandono dei terreni agricoli e dei terrazzamenti sta diventando una tragedia quotidiana nel cambiamento climatico. E quindi gli aspetti produttivi in cui anche trovare nuove economie diventano essenziali, credo, per la sopravvivenza di un bene collettivo inestimabile, che è il nostro paesaggio, che è il nostro cibo, che è la nostra cultura. Grazie.
Francesca poi modererà gli interventi del pomeriggio. Grazie, arrivederci. La presentazione del gruppo di Francesca è l'ultima cosa che appunto in italiano, poi dopo passiamo all'inglese per i nostri ospiti. Il gruppo MedNet invece o non dovrei dire invece, non ho preparato una cosa così bella, poetica e completa come Francesca. Il gruppo lavora mettendo insieme 13 paesi del Mediterraneo, in parte l'Europa, il Middle East e il Nord Africa, attraverso i rappresentanti di questi 13 paesi che lavorano come architetti paesaggisti, come agronomi, come docenti universitari, ma qualcuno anche nelle amministrazioni, cioè quindi con tante professionalità diverse nelle tematiche del paesaggio, tematiche che ci accomunano, perché la parola chiave per noi è condivisione, cioè condividiamo non solo una storia culturale, degli scambi che in tutte le epoche si sono fatti attraverso e intorno a questo mare Mediterraneo e che continuano a essere alla base di quello che è la cultura mediterranea, che non è possibile dare cioè tagliare un paese e metterlo da parte. Questo è una comunità di una condivisione del passato, del presente e io voglio sperare anche del futuro. Noi stiamo lavorando per questa visione. Il gruppo si riunisce una volta all'anno, come ha detto Caterina, nei vari paesi che compongono il MedNet, e scegliamo un tema su cui lavoriamo ricercando e scambiandoci informazione e best practices. Questo tema per un anno, 2 anni è al centro delle nostre ricerche. Il tema produce un libretto che adesso vi faccio vedere, che non posso lasciare questo maledetto microfono. In passate edizioni abbiamo lavorato su stormwater management, un'altra volta sugli alberi nella città mediterranea e questa volta il libretto appena sfornato è sul landscape diversity. Sta in giro il libretto, quindi lo potete guardare e grazie mille. Eccolo qua. Lascio un attimo. I libretti precedenti sono stati tradotti in una serie di lingue, quindi distribuito nel paese mediterraneo. Guai se me le portate via perché ne ho una copia sola. E questo è quello sugli alberi, in cui abbiamo cercato di fare una cosa assolutamente importante, di non parlare a noi stessi, tra professionisti e esperti del mestiere, ma di parlare con un linguaggio semplice e comprensibile di che cos'è il lavoro dell'architetto paesaggista, che può essere spiegato anche a chi non è del mestiere, amministrazioni, politici, il pubblico, eccetera, eccetera, perché molto di questo è comunicazione, parte del nostro lavoro. Se non si comunica semplicemente non esiste, perché non è leggibile, non è comprensibile. Quindi questa è una delle cose su cui siamo molto impegnati con questo gruppo MedNet, di comunicare l'essenza del nostro lavoro, di far comprendere, e questo è proprio l'ultimo libretto che è appena uscito, Landscape Diversity, la diversità del paesaggio, che è fondamentale anche quando si parla di condivisione. Noi condividiamo tante problematiche, tante situazioni, ma ognuno nella sua diversità, ognuno nella sua identità particolare. Quindi come questo si traduce in un progetto di spazio pubblico, spazio privato, spazio intermedio, spazio rurale, lo potete leggere qua in maniera veloce e comprensibile. Grazie mille, questo per quanto il MedNet. Chiamo la nostra prima speaker.
Posso dire una cosa?
Sì, certo.
Scusate, mi sono fatta prendere, come ha detto Uta, dal sentimento, ma anche il gruppo di lavoro Agricultural Landscapes ha prodotto diverso materiale che potete tranquillamente scaricare dal sito IFLA Europe, tra cui il valore dei paesaggi rurali. Perché è così importante che l'architetto del paesaggio si occupi dei paesaggi rurali in questa visione olistica che ho cercato di esprimere prima? E ultimo, troverete anche il catalogo, diciamo così, questa photo competition che è proprio dedicata al rapporto tra uomo e paesaggio rurale, proprio per elevare appunto non solo all'interno del mondo degli architetti del paesaggio, ma di tutti i professionisti, degli accademici, degli amministratori pubblici, la consapevolezza che è un paesaggio culturale che esiste finché c'è l'uomo, finché ci sono le comunità. Potete trovarle appunto sul sito, abbiamo qualche copia in visione perché è fresco di stampa, ma lo troverete sul sito di IFLA Europe. Grazie. E tra l'altro anche il nostro è un gruppo di lavoro.
Cosa abbiamo fatto?
Un segno. È un gruppo di lavoro che comprende, come dire, una pletora di realtà molto diverse che vanno dall'Islanda alla Svezia, sentiremo Linus oggi pomeriggio, fino appunto ai paesi mediterranei, passando per il centro Europa. Grazie.
Ovviamente anche questi libretti, tutti e tre, stanno sul sito di IFLA Europe e di IAP. Grazie. Gialla, per presentare Gialla mi ci vorrebbe 10 minuti buoni. Abbiamo fuori i curricula in breve dei nostri speaker, quindi io mi limito anche su richiesta loro di presentarli con il nome. Gialla è un pezzo da 90 e siamo molto grati che ci racconta oggi la situazione il Libano del paesaggio rurale tra rurale e urbano. Per favore andate a leggere i CV dei relatori perché solo così vi rendete conto che personaggi e che storie vi stiamo portando qua oggi. Grazie Gialla. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Uta, and thank you very much to Bauhaus for Med and MedNet for inviting me. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you today in person. In my talk, okay, it's not projected yet? Okay, so. No. Yes. So in the title of my talk, I have emphasized and. So what I mean really is that protection and production. Is there a problem? Yeah. So both I think are very important. And production, mainly it's agriculture, but also tourism and all other livelihoods. But production is at the heart of the Mediterranean and the Mediterranean garden. And I read this caption from Ellen Churchill, a very old reference. It's at the heart of what a garden is. The Mediterranean is a garden, I think, all of the Mediterranean. Gardening in the Eastern Mediterranean implies converting sterile, infertile, and into productive field. That was the challenge, that it is hot, arid, water is scarce, climate is hot, and we are trying to create a garden. Agriculture is the garden, so productivity is at the heart of it. Beauty is in productivity, and this is images from the epic of Gilgamesh, very old Sumerian epic, which shows how the hero Gilgamesh goes through the arid climate to find the garden, which is a productive garden. Gardens in biblical sources is also used synonymously with vineyard and olive orchard. When you say garden, it's an orchard. And in a lot of Mediterranean cultures, in the Eastern Mediterranean, where I come from, a garden has to be productive, otherwise it's not a garden. So you see how productivity is at the heart of the garden. So this is from a village in southern Lebanon where I did a survey of village gardens to find out what is the garden, what does it mean. It is a long article, and I've put the references in a lot of the slides, which you can read later, so we can go faster. But this is a village, and the village of Siddiqin, where I did the survey, the whole village landscape is a garden. It's very difficult to tell where is the maquis starts and where the trees are, where the olive orchards are. And the green is not grass. This is tobacco cultivation. It's the only livelihood they have. I compared the plants of the houses, and as you can see, a very large number are plants that occur in the Bible and in the Quran. So imagine this tradition, and if you read captions from the Bible and from the Quran, it always said we created the garden with many fruits and diversity. Diversity is an essence. This is also a garden. This is, again, you have the maquis, the natural, and the productive. And the productive is always in a water course, a ravine. I'm going to talk a lot about streams and ravine, which I think are essential, a structural geomorphological component of Mediterranean landscapes. The Mediterranean taught me a lot of what I know. And Mediterranean landscape mosaics are multifunctional. They are sustainable. And I put those two systems, Silva, Saltus, Agar, which combines three, herding, forestry, and agriculture, and the Dehesa Montada, because with the first one, they are jumbled. With the second model, they are stratified. There is intercropping of olive, and under the olive, you plant grain, and you have pastoral activities. And this is an incredible part of the Mediterranean mosaic. In this article on future scenarios for the Mediterranean landscape, I tried to represent the model of a coastal Mediterranean landscape. And you can see you have advanced maquis at the very end, and you have olive and carob planting, multifunctional planting, which are very sustainable, which I spoke of those systems. And then you have coastal agriculture and settlements, people. And here you have the ravine. And what do we do? So we have urban green areas, we have productive landscapes, and we have wildlife habitat. So the questions I ask are, how can we ensure that the Mediterranean ecosystem remains diverse so that it is resilient? Because diversity means resilience. And how can humans and natural systems continue to evolve because the Mediterranean is a co-evolution of people and environment to the mutual benefit of both. So both can benefit and survive. And to do this, I look at 3 examples from my own work. But I also wanted to put in this slide, which is a book that I did with a very good colleague, Gloria Puncetti, because we were tired of North European planning and nature conservation and conceptions of landscape being imposed on the Mediterranean, which is very difficult and is very specific. And this is why we have the MedNet group. So here, I use ecology, which helps me understand, because my background is in architecture, and ecology made me understand those 4 items. First of all, hierarchy and continuity. This is something that was mentioned earlier this morning. Landscapes don't have boundaries, unlike a building or landscapes flow across. So this continuity and hierarchical organization is very important. Evolutionary, again, time, dynamic. Landscapes are dynamic, they are always changing. Also responsiveness, to respond to that place and culture. And finally, inclusive. The first example, I'll go quickly because I know we are short of time. The first example is in Cyprus, from Cyprus, the beautiful island of Cyprus. And it is, again, mountains, a very wide coastal plain with olive and carob planting. And I tried again to map this. And in the top plan, this is the regional. This was my PhD study. So I was looking at the regional, and it's made of these components. Forest on the peaks, maquis, advanced maquis around the forest, and the hatched is the olive and carob planting. And at the same time, I was working on a project. I was commissioned as a landscape architect in a project which is several kilometers away from on the west of the northern coast. And here you find a replication of that same pattern. Again, the maquis, the forest, and the rivers and the streams. These are images from the site. It's a 37-hectare beautiful site with a ravine, with a stream, and with a beautiful plateau. So the landscape architect, I proposed a plan working with British, English architects and planners. The key for me was to preserve. We're talking protection and production. This is a tourist project. Okay, but protection is important. So the two components I wanted to protect was the stream here and this big area, plateau, which is at the heart of the project. And the architects were crazy. They said the hotel and bungalows will come here. This is the best land. And I said, no, it won't, because this is the culture of this place. This is the cultural landscape. And you know how I did not convince them, but the client was convinced, because I said, if you integrate those olives and carob, productive landscape, into the project, one, you will have character. You will have a very specific character of place. Second, it is sustainable. You don't have to plant grass and flowers and anything. It is sustaining itself. So in the end, they were convinced. And so two key components were not touched by the architects, and they were part of the master plan. And this is the master plan. You can see the ravine protected and that large empty hole. And this is an image of the project. The second project it's from Lebanon. It is, again, a challenging project because it is a businessman, local businessman, who purchased a lot of land. And you can see in this image the sea on Tripoli, just North Lebanon. And this is in the foothills. It's 150 hectares, not planned, no map, nothing. And he said, I want something good for the environment. Okay, what can be good for the environment? So the challenge, we worked as a team. The land had herding, typically Mediterranean landscape. Goat and sheep herding, forests of oak and pine, a lot of aromatic herbs, cistus and thyme. And the local people, as you can see, come and harvest the wild. And they use it in their everyday life. There is also some organic farming on the... So the team that worked there, we were from the agriculture department, from different departments at the American University of Beirut, and we have food and nutrition, myself as landscape, husbandry and herding, and Najat below is a chemist, Selma is a conservationist, and an agricultural engineer. So we worked, so you know some of them, yeah. So we worked on this conception. We said for this project, what we will have, core value will be essential oil production because it is there and it is being used. So the aim was, and fringe benefits will be honey and honey keeping, beekeeping and herding, community awareness and composting unit. But the aim, what was the aim? The aim of the project was to create a model with best practices, but that is typically Mediterranean in its multifunctionality and puts all of these together. And so this was the project, and this is very briefly the concept of those functions surrounded by, and this is, you can see, it is strategic interventions with the herding and with the, this is for the essential oil production. The unit, we had architects, and we were working really as a very multifunctional team. And here we were experimenting how to extract essential oils. But also conservation means that we don't just harvest the wild. So in parallel was, how do we propagate those herbs? And so I will go through, and then herding is also another one of the, and of course community extension, how to raise awareness. The third project is in a city. This is why I included it, because it's in Sidon, in southern Lebanon. It's a very old Phoenician, and it's part of a cross-border cooperation in the Mediterranean. It's a very important project because it brings different cities to work sustainably. And Sidon, the landscape focus was agricultural landscapes in the coast, in the urban municipality, water resources, rivers and sea, and open green spaces. This is a map of Lebanon, and you can see, if you look closely to the map, you will see little grooves which are streams and rivers throughout. And these are so important in the Mediterranean. They're seasonal, so for many of the times there's nothing. So people forget that there's nothing, there is something. When it is the melting, the rainy season, you will have a water coming down there. But there are two problems. And this is Sidon, and this is, just to explain, this is municipal Sidon, this is the historic city with the Phoenician citadel, and this is the city itself. So this is, again, part of the mapping that we did. You can see there are 5 streams, 2 big ones, Awali and Saini, and smaller ones. And this is the coast. You can see how well it is cultivated. So the aim was for the landscape plan to protect all of this. This map with the blue lines, you think these are the rivers? Yes, this is the river courses, but do you know what these are? These are sewage network. The sewage network is a replication, it is in the river. Why? Because it is nobody's land, so it's very easy to put the sewage in these places. And this is a practice throughout the Mediterranean, and a very, very big problem. This is what happens when you forget, you put the river in culverts, underground. When the rainy season comes, it overflows and it damages everything. Another problem is, I don't know in the Mediterranean, in the Eastern Mediterranean, but management of landscape is split between so many government agencies, between environment that looks at biodiversity, between Ministry of Energy and Water that looks at water resources independently from biodiversity, between finances, whoever gives the money, who looks for projects. So this is really a very big problem. And landscape is a way to bring those together. It is to bring the disciplines together and to bring the people together. So the concept we proposed was to revive these streams as ecological corridors, as green spines, and as greenways for people to use. And as you can see, the aim of in the end, the plan, the strategic plan we proposed, the rivers and streams structure that plan. So it is a very big impact. And we proposed green, blue networks with protecting the agriculture and the streams for Saida. I like this table because it shows how for each component of the landscape, the multifunctionality I spoke of is repeated. For the sea and coastline and for the water courses, you have environmental health, socioeconomic benefits, landscape heritage, and amenity. So this is really what landscape does, put all of the, and this is the Mediterranean traditional systems. It is multifunctional. It was very good that it was a participatory approach, this project, and a lot of the small NGOs came and picked up the ideas of reviving the rivers, and this is Lil Medina for the city that did one of these, and its proposal to remove the sewage from the streams and to create green networks. So that brings me to the end of my talk. And I put this just for reflection, that again, when we look at the concerns in the Mediterranean, we are looking at spatial space, we're looking at heritage and identity, at environment and ecosystem, and people and empowerment as well. And for the underlying planning principles of ecological design, you can see the fluidity, complexity, multifunctionality, and in the end, the symbiotic development and evolution. Thank you. Yeah.
Are you prepared to answer?
Yes, of course. I tried to go fast.
If there are questions, Jalla is happy to answer any questions that might occur. Se ci sono domande, lei è felice di rispondere. Nessuna domanda? Caterina? This was supposed to work, but maybe it's just myself that... Wait a moment. Mick.
I think she has in her, in the chair. In the chair.
Technology is always
Hello, there is one
a
in the
risk
chair.
factor.
Yeah, I was just explaining.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jana. I really, you just, I felt you on my heart, to be honest, about all this and the problems and how we try to solve it. One practical question just for me to know, and I think and for the speakers. These strategic plans, after all this evaluation, have been implemented, apart from being a research project, that I know there are some pilot case studies, but what was your experience? Have you seen any progress on that?
Yeah. A good question, Caterina. Because it was participatory, this Mediterranean network cities is really amazing. And there was one in Sfax also. So it is not obligatory. The municipality is the client, but they are not obliged to apply the strategic plan I showed. However, because it is participatory, local groups took some of our recommendations and continued the project. And that is even better, because for 2 years we finished, we all go our way. But the local community and those young people in Medina, they fought to protect the streams, revive the history and the heritage, but also more important, in the slide I showed, the stream doesn't know borders. So they connected many municipalities to collaborate and cooperate to create a green corridor, which is because some of them are always fighting. So in a sense, yes. And again, when I said green corridors, the municipality people were laughing. Corridor. Look at it, it's a sewage thing. But later on, from Barcelona, the key funding agency, they came and they said, this is one of the projects we want to continue. So one of those streams was continued, funded and continued. So you start an idea and people catch it and they continue, because you cannot. Landscape is very difficult to implement. It's not a building. You cannot go, build, and finish. It's never finished. But our work is also to raise awareness for others to carry this message. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was so much on the point, question and the answer. What I was saying, that we need to learn to communicate. That's what it's as important as the scientific part of our work. To be able to talk to people and to be able to convince all stakeholders of what we're going to do. Thank you very much, Jala, and for your passionate exposition. Amir, I'm calling Amir Gohar, and I will go on not to tell you whatever he is, because also he has a long list of roles and achievements and things. Please bear with me on that. Amir.
Thank you.
Amir is from Egypt.
Ten minutes? Sure. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very pleased to be with like-minded people and beautiful souls, actually, which is something our discipline is known for. We are people who care about the climate and the waves and the bees and the trees. So I'm happy to be with such intelligent and kind hearts. Today I'm going to talk about what happens if there's no landscape architecture and why is it important. In Egypt, where I come from, it's a very diverse, it's a country with a very diverse landscapes. We have the Nile, we have the deltas, we have the Red Sea mountain range deserts with tribes. We have oases in the Western Desert. We have very ancient cross-cultural and multicultural cities. So it's very diverse, but there's the landscape architecture is a very, very young discipline, as it is in every other country, comparing to other disciplines that are well established.
Sorry, I'm not supposed to do this, but
No, that's fine. Oh, it's not flipping?
Oh, okay. I'm so stressed about the technology.
So over 90% of Egyptian population live around the Nile Valley and the Delta, making up only 4% of the country's area. Climate hits everywhere. Climate change brings a lot of risks. But the impacts of this climate change is not equal. There are people who are more vulnerable. There are places that are more sensitive to climate change more than other places. We tend to, in Egypt, and I think in many other countries, we tend to address climate change in a very broader sense. And this is a word that I personally have a take on it when I meet someone who tells me I'm climate change expert. I've worked a lot on climate change, and I think it's very complex. People who do fire modeling are climate people, sea level rise are climate people, hydrology are climate people, soil collapse. There are so many different climate vulnerabilities that cannot be addressed by certain individuals or certain discipline. But as landscape architects, we seem to encompass a wide range of that. I'm not saying everything. We still need to work interdisciplinary. But I started to map what Egypt is doing in regarding to climate change, and I found I tend to think across scales, on the national level, on the regional level, and on the local level. So on the national level, there are very known challenges that are probably across the entire region and the Mediterranean, like heat waves, water scarcity, carbonization, and energy stress. And I think the answer to those are, can occur across other countries in the region, in the Mediterranean as well. But when we move to the regional level, we have very specific region when we need to start to think of climate spatially. So we have coastal zones, and we have the Red Sea mountain range, and we have the Nile Delta. Very different landscapes, and each of them is vulnerable to climate in very, very different way. We can't get a climate expert to deal with all of them. So, and that's why it's very important to invite landscape architects on the regional scale to bring in their expertise across different regions. And then we have the local scale, which is presented in urban heat islands with a specific waterfront plazas design, or urban waterfront distribution, and how do private residents and golf courses distribute or use their water. And the loss of local biodiversity, how do we, in the rapid urbanization, how do we sacrifice trees and ecosystem thinking it's only aesthetic, we can replace it with other aesthetic qualities without looking at the tree's role in the biodiversity and migratory birds and the connection of water cycle, etc. I'll give an example of one project quickly. In the North Coast, sea level rise is a threat to the Nile Delta, and if you can look at these two maps, how they are, the delta is going to be reduced because of the increase of sea level rise and also the reduction of the power of the sedimentation from the Nile and the Delta. And that started with the Aswan High Dam, but now it's more at more vulnerability with the Renaissance Dam that is built by Ethiopia. On the North Coast, this is a very conceptual section or diagram that I put together very quickly. We have erosion happening on the coast, on the North Coast because of the current. And on the other hand, the high urbanization for the coastal strip with tourist villages prevents the sedimentation process. So when the flood comes, it's obstructed by this huge concrete wall. And I remember when I visited the north coast of Libya, I could, for the first time, see how would our north coast look like if we did not urbanize the way we did since the 70s until now. It was very untouched, pristine, with still a lot of Roman remains, Roman antiquities, and a lot of cultural villages. And I can tell how destructive we were in the process of generating jobs, income, revenue, and real estate development. So because we tend to look at the immediate benefits, which is more economical, we tend to forget the long-term environmental balances and the ecosystem. This is again another map showing how Marsa Matruh, which is very northwest of Egypt on the Mediterranean shoreline, have changed over time. This is an example by a project called Ras Al Hikma by an Emirati UAE investor who bought this piece of the Mediterranean and developing all this real estate to be like posh, high-end, luxurious resorts. And I tend to get to know a little bit more on the insights of these projects. And what is fascinating here that landscape architects from Europe and United States and Canada and North America tend to be brought into the project to fill the gaps and do the aesthetic public spaces. So we say, I'm not going to mention names, but company X or company Y, the best landscape architects, but when did we actually invite them? After the entire urban footprint has been decided. So they come and make a very nice garden in an area that used to be a floodplain, or an area that has turtle nesting sites, or an area that has tribal trails. And all this gets wiped out, but you get these big landscape firms from around the world to design very little left over without taking into consideration what's happening on the other side of the street. And with time, and it's proven already that the sea level rise keeps going into the building, so they start to bring more engineers to fix that. So we tend to don't think of the landscape planning or the ecology, but we're very much focused on how to do a nice golf course that would make the area sell more, or make that 5-star becomes a 7-star resort. So landscape architects tend to be invited a bit late, and that's what I'm trying to advocate for, of how to make Ras Al Hikma or any other similar Mediterranean project in harmony with nature, in harmony with the culture, and engage a lot of the local people. I personally worked a lot across so many countries in the West Asia and most of Africa and South America, and despite having a PhD from Berkeley in environmental planning, I keep learning about the environment and the landscape from the local tribes, from the Bedouins, from the nomadic tribes in Central Africa. Everywhere I encounter local people, I learn more than I learned in the university. And I have 5 degrees. I've learned in 3 continents. I'm well equipped with education. However, they have tribal laws. They have ways when to cut the tree, what to do. They have even a punishment system for anyone who would cut a green branch of a tree. And I've seen that across different cultures and ethnicities and religions and climates and nations. So we need also to be a little bit humble and learn from those who probably have less degrees than we do, but they are equipped with the inherited knowledge and culture. I will end that quickly. When Egypt addresses policy, climate change, they started in 1994. This is a very quick timeline with joining the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change up to 2022 when they joined the COP27. They hosted the COP27. And despite the progress, I don't see involvement of landscape architecture, and I don't see enforcement in being part of the institutions. So landscape architects remain something nice to have, something optional, something not bad. Something that would bring to complete a picture, but it's not mandatory, and it doesn't take into account the actual role that landscape architects could play in this process. Otherwise, we wouldn't be there. And I'm not talking of lack of implementation. That's a different problem. I'm talking about the lack of involvement at the first place. The lack of implementation is a different story. But first we need to get them engaged into the initiatives. So there is a lot of international initiatives and a lot of grassroots and NGOs start up to work on climate change. And there's a lot of local knowledge in the rural areas that is actually helping local communities and farmers in the Delta to fight climate change. But there's something very interesting happening as we speak, is that for the sake of creating and increasing revenue, Egypt is doing something I don't think they're very aware of its consequences. They're replacing the farmer with the farming investors. So you're removing the farmer, the one who farmed wheat and bread for his community, with an investor who would farm broccoli and sell it abroad to get foreign currency. So there is also an economic twist that we need to be aware of. The KPIs of bringing in foreign currency, dollar, and increase export is good, but we don't look at the social price when we look at the cultural and demographic changes that's happening in the Delta of Egypt. We're basically transforming the farmer to become something else, to become a civil servant or to find another job for the sake of exporting broccoli and I think avocado. And we're just using the wrong KPI to show that we're making economic progress in the Delta. Yeah, I talked about grassroots communities. Currently, we didn't have landscape architecture. Even when you look at an announcement on LinkedIn, an office that needs a landscape architect, they don't even know how to write the job description, because everything comes to their mind is how to design swimming pools and resorts, which is part of our role, but it's a very, very small part of what we can actually do. or playgrounds for children in a hotel. Yes, that's part of our job, we can do it. And sometimes designing a plaza in a public space without even engaging the people or public in shaping this plaza. That's also part of our role. We're not saying no to design, but all I'm saying there is a larger scale that can help in saving the planet or saving the nation. So ESLA was founded in 2023 as a national association and was incubated with IFLA in 2024. And here we are we still have 16 members, we're a very young organization, but we're trying to raise awareness and engage with the policymakers to bring the landscape architect early before the damage happens. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't take more time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amir. And this is an interesting piece of information, I think, for everybody, to join the key questions of what production means for economic, and then what's the cost of the development. I mean, this is something we need to bring to our politicians. The social costs that we pay for increasing production, that's a very difficult balance. I'm not even able to make my home budget things, so I can only understand that there is something very, very big we should be going and looking into. Thank you very much. Margarida from Portugal. This is going to be a self-made conference. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm very pleased to be for the 7th time with this group and with the Italian friends.
Margarida is one of the founders of this group.
I will try to show some examples of areas of special wealth playing essential roles in the territory, and simultaneously we know they are of great attraction always since centuries and human occupation. Initially we were wise and we giving rise to balanced situations. In many cases around the Mediterranean, the situations evolved into abuses, imbalances, and even destruction. We have some examples. I will show the conversion into harmonious landscapes, taking on the great challenge we have, landscape architects, to ensure essential functions in balance with useful uses to the community. I believe that around Mediterranean in general, Mediterranean coastal zones have these characteristics: 0 days of frost per year, plus high atmospheric humidity, high diversity and intense exchanges. This is an interface between land and sea. Habitat for various species, nurseries, shelter, and so on. These areas are under strong influence of winds, tides, and currents. At the same time, they are moderator of these issues, always attracting and settling populations, providing early crops and year-round production, and, of course, at risk of natural and human disasters. We have harbor sports, several dimensions. A small one. We have in Portugal, along the coast, orchards and vineyards protected in compartments. They are protected by hedge. Sometimes they are living hedge, it's a pleonasmo maybe, but because they are of reeds, and it's very clever because during the summer we can cut the reeds and have more aeration inside the compartment. If they are with dry stone walls, we don't have this issue of cut and open. Coastal lagoons is a tradition in Portugal to open these lagoons on Good Friday, near Easter, because Easter is close to equinox, and when there is the greatest tide range of the year. So the high tide is near the mouth of the lagoon and it's very easy to open. We need to refresh, to renew the water inside the lagoon, and we got nutrients from the sea, small fishes, eggs, and so on. So this is a tradition. We have some examples to show to the students. Sometimes we don't have enough examples of sensitive tourism with a pleasant scale. We have traditional settlements in the cliffy coast. The fishermen need to be near the coast to watch the sea, if they can go out or not. So it was close to the cliff, but we have the start of unregulated occupation. These streets open in quite a disorder. Again, a traditional settlement in the background and the start of unregulated occupation of the cliffs. We love, everybody, scenic roads, but it's an attraction for buildings and tourism. Special disorder near Lisbon. And my colleagues are tired of this image because it's, I showed sometimes, it's the more touristic region in Portugal, terrible situation. We have some good examples from our students. In Azores, a quite balanced complementarity between woods, fields, housing and tourism, and this was the paradise. And now I will try to show you a very, very special situation called Maceiras, agricultural situation in the coast, called Maceiras. Maceiras in Portuguese means the bread kneading tray, when you mix for the bread. I believe it's a unique form of traditional farming practiced in the north coast of Portugal, increasing agricultural yields, and we have, it's located in a small geographic area on the northern coastline. It's only a strip of 2 kilometers wide and 10 kilometers long. The dune area has been transformed very wisely into an agriculture area with horticultural productivity without use any machinery. We can grow carrots, onions, potatoes, cabbage, leeks and garlic, green beans, turnip greens, and we need to have vines cultivated in the banks, the south, east and west exposition, to fix the sanding slopes, and we can have trees and reeds again on the northern slope as windbreaker against the prevailing northern wind. These allied for covered slopes, the Maceira function as a sort of greenhouse, without any protection, very early cultures. We need, because it's sand, poor, shallow, we need sargasso, this seaweed gathered from the nearby Atlantic Ocean during the summer, and we need this for fertilization. This was created in the 18th century by Benedictine monks. Until the middle of 20th century, it works very well. It was very good during the Second World War, but after that there is a decline. So, the way we do this, I ask you, is this a unique culture in the world? We believe that we will find in China or some eastern part, we can have maybe the same process. So we have a flat area and we have okay, you can see the water table in blue in the first diagram.
This one. This one. Press.
I did.
Yeah, it shows. Press it. It's
try, please. So we excavated.
Il puntatore che non funziona.
Puntatore.
Ah, eccolo qua. Margherita.
Ah, it's in the end of.
Yes, I have to go off
Okay.
direction.
So we have here the water table and the flat area behind the dunes, and we of course. We excavated the area, put the sand in the banks, and we lowering the area until the water table. So the culture will be close, the roots will be close to the water table. We need sargasso, the seaweed, to introduce in the sand and to have this agriculture. So, the introduction of sargasso increases fertility of the sandy soil and favors the cultivation of horticultural species in the interior, protected from the wind and with the root system closer to the water table. This is a very highly productive, intensive, and early, very early, so it can be expensive products. A sketch by one of my ancient students showing. Sorry. It's okay. So we can see the sargasso from the sea bringing inside the Maceira, and the dunes are always conserved, protected, and are protecting also the production. This is some years ago, the production, and each individual depression can have 1,000 to 10,000 square meters. One only culture or several, more diversity, a very curious situation. To keep the vine producing, we need to have the vines elevated with small stakes, promoting better aeration, because we can have it close to the soil. Rafts, traditional, there were rafts for collecting the sargasso, and we storage and dry the sargasso at the beach. Nowadays, this is endangered due to the increase of greenhouses. Why we had an earlier culture? Why to force more and have early? So we are changing from agriculture, as Jala told, agriculture, to agribusiness. Also due to chaotic urbanization, beach sand extracting for construction. These are the threats. And now it's the present situation, very terrible, not wise, not sustainable, and the municipalities are aware, and one of the municipalities granted about 500 hectares of its territory for the exclusive use of maceiras to protect this type of unique traditional agriculture. And another municipality in 2013 launched international open competition for the preliminary study of the city park with 18 hectares. The winner are this studio, and the jury considered that the solution was conceptually innovative, assimilates and explores the concepts of maceiras and sargasso, and provide the transition between urban and park space. This is the design for from the studio, the initial situation of the town and the site of the park, the master plan. I didn't told that Maceiras are surrounded by woods, almost pine woods, the traditional way. So our colleagues are trying to maintain and to have also the woods in the project. They try the concept to have an integration of multiple culturally assimilated references from the nearby landscape and the valorization of the ancestral relationship between the population and the countryside and the river and the sea, trying to make this park singular, distinct from all others, and unique identity. The central diagram I will show next expresses the structural lines of the proposal. The Perret, the definition of a continuous line as a wall covered with stone in contact between the city and the park. It's a sort of membrane with selective porosity that allows occasional passages between the promenade and the new city park. And they used Sargasso as an inspiration. The walkways are structures that branch off from forks leading to ends where birdwatching posts are located, or which simply allow to get closer to the river, occasionally touching the ecosystem present. So the design is the result of evoking the constant presence of Sargasso in this landscape. The scientific name is Fucus vesiculosus, and you can see in brown the design of the walkways inspired in the Sargasso structure. At the ends of the park, to the north, there are two squares that invite you in and inform you about the park. Between these two places, there is a succession of events, walkways and hideaway pods for observing the march, large and small open areas for games and events, play spaces that recreate the shapes of Maceiras, enclosures for observing the sky and the stars, and places for multiple sensory experience, and riparian woods also. So the park is a fun, playful, and sustainable place to see, smell, hear, play, feel, run, walk, learn, date, and protect. So we try to recreate Maceiras in a different way. We hope that will work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margarita. We hope that it will work too. Manuel, please. Manuel is from Spain.
You can put your own, do you know?
I don't know. What is this?
The next one.
Sorry. Did you get hurt? Yeah. You hurt?
Just sat lower than I.
Ok, let's start. Thank you. Buongiorno a tutti. Io sono Manuel from Spain, and I'm going to speak in English because when I change, I develop in a chaos. Okay. Good morning. I am going to talk about the restoration of Cap de Creus, that it is a project from 20 years before. I think it is, I try to explain that project, maybe some of you know it, but I think it is important now because I think it's a radical project. So it is in that way that I think it can be brave. Okay. Cap de Creus is in the northwest of Spain. You can see the circle. It is the place there. I love this photo and usually start with this photo because here we can see everything that we have heard from Amir and from Egypt. It is all the urbanization of the Egypt that you can see in the night. So I say Egypt because we start with Egypt, but it is all around the Mediterranean. One can see the urbanization. Now, where is the people living? The area of the Cap de Creus is a millennial-old interaction between human and communities, where the environment created by the mosaic of landscape, agricultural terrace, dry stone walls, and a network of paths that wove the territory together. This was a balance, but it started to break down in the 20th century due to the progressive abandon of farmland. So it is the problem of agricultural. And this scenario increases the territory vulnerability when all the urban and tourism impression in 60 years. Okay, this image could represent the Spanish coastal ideal. I don't know, this is, tourism is now the 11%, it was in 2004, it was the 11% of Spain GDP. It starts, continues, so maybe you can see, maybe you are there between these people. Okay. It can be one of the coasts of the Mediterranean or even in the Atlantic. You are not, I think this is La Concha, so this is San Sebastián. So it is nice, but it is crowded of people too. Okay, in 2024, last year, tourism in Spain reached its historical heights. We arrived to have 93.8 million of visitors. So we are really in records. So we are winning Italy, I think. So be careful. Okay, let's continue. I marked this 20-year distinction to tell you about the pioneering project that promises, and many of us dreamed, it could usher a new way of managing tourism, the restoration of Cap de Creus. A key moment in the evolution of the landscape concept and a paradigm set in the Spain with the deconstruction of the Club Med resort located in the peninsula. Built in the 1960s during the tourism boom, this resort symbolized intensive coastal occupation and development of a model based on landscape consumption. The decision to dismantle this Club Med was driven in 2004 by the Ministry of the Environment, Cristina Narbona, who took the strong stance in favor of restoration of Spain's coastline and returning occupied land to the public domain. Thanks to this political decision, the complex was definitely completely demolished, and the natural space was reintegrated in the natural park. It was not just an urban planning operation. It was a symbolic and political gesture that marked the beginning of a new era. A new era in the land management, or maybe an idea of a new era. It seems there were new ways to approach our coast. So this is worse, and this is now. Okay, Martí Franch, the designer, the landscape architect, this is a member of our association, my association, Spanish Association of Landscape, project that he didn't want to back in time exactly, but rather to respectfully reinterpret it and the natural landscape. So this is not going back, just going back. It's to find another way to convince and to live and design our landscape. Okay, the project director is Martí Franch from AMF, Tom Ardevol, and Manuel Alguero, who was the first time I saw in a landscape project, who one of the leaders is an enterprise of expert in demolition. Okay, possibly is the most important restoration project in the Mediterranean basin. Maybe at the end of the day we know if there are more other options. It was a selective demolition. It was a paradigmatic management of infrastructure debris, extraction of invasive flora, restoration of the landform for the sediment flow, and a new public use for valuing the natural features. Okay. This project included the demolition of 550 structures. You can see there, it was a French club, the Met Club. This was a private use of the land, and then when the ministry buy the land, they start there. So it is the first thing is to select if demolition of that structure and the paradigmatic management of 42,000 cubic meters of residual infrastructures, recycling nearly 10% of the materials. Okay, this is the master plan of the project. The project has 5 axes of action. So the removal the invasive exotic flora, Carpobrotus etulis, the deconstruction, the management of the recycling of 100% the demolition waste, restoration of the regional ecosystem and natural land sea energy flows, and a new public use for the tourism. So my topic was to build the coast for tourists, but from tourists. Okay. This is the situation. I think it is not the best photo, but it is the removal of invasive exotic flora. This was 90 hectares that it cost 3,000 tons of invasive plants. The idea was to dry it in the place. So drying it, if you dry the plants, maybe this is connected with your project Margarida, to use the plants, the residuals, to start. In that height, the dry material, it was reduced to the 70%, and then it was mixed with the soil, with the local soil, to make new soils for the future. Okay, one more important aspect is the treatment of demolition materials. Ensuring that absolutely everything demolished was recycled and reused on site. 11 acres of urbanized area and were deconstructed. A meticulous recycling process was carried out, separating wood, glass, ceramic, and etc. It was really difficult because it was 45 different types of building, so it is not a homogeneous situation. But it was a very long and careful process to achieve the expected level of recycling. Okay, this is the diagram of the use of the waste. Okay, we have demolished the building, but we have demolished too the basement. Okay, we have demolished the buildings, and now we have the basement. Okay, continue. The rock cleaning. They have to make 11 acres of urbanized surface, and then they have to clean manual and mechanical all the rocky surfaces to remove the traces of concrete and construction materials. It is a natural park, so you have to use hydraulic hammers, spatulas, and grinders, so you can't use big. Okay. Other important achievement of this project was the recovery of sediments dynamics, essential for the system of the beaches. To form a beach, certain conditions must be met. There must be a geomorphic area that allows sediment accumulation. Sediment accumulation must exceed erosion, otherwise permanent accumulation is impossible. So it is important to permit the flood and the water dry to make the way to the sea. So it is important to not only to put out all the buildings, it's just to make the space for the nature. Okay, after all, we love the nature, so we want to be the tourists, we want to go there. It was an organization of hierarchies of the road network. It was main roads, secondary roads, and tertiary roads. This is a network of viewpoints, and even this was a project that is of identification of the animal-shaped rock, that it is nice because it is in the memory of some of the locals, an artist like Dali. Okay, and this is my conclusion that it is the important thing, I think. I don't know if you have projects in that scale in your countries with this sensibility, but it isn't clear that in these 20 years, Spain has followed growing the path of the construction over the nature. Now tourism is our 26% GDP. Among Spain, we have 8,000 kilometers, so it's really similar to Italian. And we have perhaps the most infamous example that we have it is this project that it is called the Hotel of El Algarrobico. So it is in the coast of Almeria, and it is it is there. It is after 2006, the court order had this construction. The Spanish Supreme Court has issued 13 demolition rulings, but they are continued there. Okay. 2 minutes, perfect. It is obviously that the tourism will continue to be a key axis in the development of the life of the entire Mediterranean basin. There is no cultural or economical alternative that can fully replace it. It is also obvious that we need to revisit our models, how we travel, how we use the time and our money as individuals. We became collective. It is feasible to restore our entry-core style. Where will we stay? Will we stop traveling? Surely, in the middle ground, it's not easy to achieve a point, an intermediate point. But I think it is important for me to bring this example. But I think it is if sometimes political volunteer and technical experience can make the thing. So this is all for me. Thank you.
I like the conclusion, with an utopic wish. We are still working on it, always trying to make people understand how important these issues are and how important a change of vision, a change of narrative, someone told this morning, needs to happen. And we are part of the storytellers that can, I think, as landscape architects, we can tell this new story. Please, Carrie, she is from Morocco, and thank you, and she's a truly new storyteller.
Buongiorno tutti. That's about where my Italian starts and stops. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the production of spaces for tourism in Morocco, which has been my home for more than 3 decades now, from a personal point of view, and in a country where the profession of landscape architecture is not recognized. So Moroccan's coastline is quite long, maybe not compared to Italy's coastline, but it fronts onto the Mediterranean Sea, but also the Atlantic Ocean. And there's a wide variety of geological characteristics which make for a really, really varied landscape with very dramatic views and landscape features. However, major development projects, starting with Morocco's Plan Azur in about 25 years ago now, have accelerated the artificialization of the coastline, changing and even destroying the natural beauty of the place. And so it becomes crucial to use and look at using nature-based solutions along the coast, which is really difficult when landscape architects are always called in at the end, as happens in Egypt. So the coastline is about 3,000 kilometers long, and it traverses several ecoregions, both marine and land systems. So you have a variety of landscapes, from mountains plunging directly into the Mediterranean Sea in this case, to wide sandy beaches and lots of things in between. History and culture are really important because a lot of Moroccan cities find their origins because of their situation on the sea. And in fact, in some cities, we have a really ironic situation where cemeteries actually occupy prime real estate because they were located outside the city walls, because danger came from the sea. There were pirates and dangers coming in, and so the dead were buried outside the city walls. So in some ways, it saved some of the space from development. So the Moroccan Plan Azur was established in 2001, and it was to boost Moroccan's tourism industry. You can see some of the objectives on the slide, but they were all economic objectives in terms of how many tourists we want to attract by 2010, how much currency revenue in foreign currencies we wanted to generate, etc. And so there was no, there were few objectives relating to the environment. It was all economy driven. And as part of this plan, there were 6 major resorts planned along the coast, one being on the Mediterranean and the others down the Atlantic coast. And if you look at their numerous press reviews, which note that the program was largely a fiasco, and one of the major reasons was that they were disconnected from the culture, the local culture, and even in some cases the local landscape of the region, because there were these one-stop shops. You go in, everything's included, and you don't need to travel anywhere else and actually connect with the context that you're in. And so there's a conflict between ecology and economy, and the question, can both be reconciled, whether it's from tourism or from urbanization. There's stunning scenery and natural features. If you haven't been to Morocco, I encourage you to come, because there's lots to see. There's also coastal sports, wind sports, water sports, but also motor sports such as jet ski, which obviously cause problems and conflicts in terms of nature preservation and user experience on a beach. Somebody going for a calm holiday is not really that happy to see jet skis. But ironically, the natural attractions and the natural beauty of the Moroccan coast that people are coming for are rapidly being lost by more and more inappropriate development. Ports as well form a large part of the artificialization of the coast, whether they be transformation of older city ports, as in the case of Tangier, or the large, huge industrial-scaled port on the Tangier called Tangier Med, also on the Mediterranean. Fishing is another economic, is of economic importance as well along the coast. But fortunately, in addition to the kind of industrial fleets, there's still a lot of artisanal fishing, which actually adds to the character of the coastal towns. There's a strong need for environmental protection. There are lots of sites which are protected sites under the Ramsar Convention, for example, as sites for nesting birds. Some marine ecologies are protected, but again, these are always running into conflict because there's always this clash between the environment and humans in cities. We're not nice people. We cause damage. We build slummed settlements or informal settlements on beaches because there's no space in the urban areas. We break into environmentally protected zones and leave our litter behind, or even uncontrolled dumping and construction rubble, which happens on beaches. So between urbanization and tourism, there's really this development of an artificial coastline, which is subject to pollution through, Jala talked about the sewerage network being located along watercourses. In this case, it's often just like gets thrown into the sea, which obviously has an impact on marine ecosystems. There's a destruction of habitat, both marine and land, and obviously a reduction in coastal resilience because nature is not able to, in its diversity, to be able to resist to extreme climate events and climate change. So this is just a little map which I came across from an ONG called Neshvat on LinkedIn. And it's just of one city. It's showing the kind of coastal developments of the greater Casablanca. So you can see that these projects are sort of linked together, one and next to the other, forming an almost continuous, concreted over, hard surface, urban water edge. And speculation and privatization tend to override ecological and social needs. Many projects are inspired by or spectacular projects, such as a really special shopping mall or a high-class hotel, which might not obey the overall kind of planning direction that where it exists. And so that these things are just like, it's basically a case of money talking. And also with rapid urbanization exceeding the planned growth, lots of green spaces in our cities are being lost. And many of these developments are also marketed as eco-quartier, eco-districts, but when you see what's actually happening on the ground, it's often in stark contradiction to an eco region. And so we need to be looking at long-term planning, at enhancing vegetation, nature-based solutions, and also obviously public consultation. And these are all concepts that were all picked up by previous speakers already this morning. And so, yeah, I was glad to see that landscape architects are on the same page. Oh, what happened? Oh, okay. So this is a video. I don't think it's going to play, but just the image itself shows. This is what happens. This is in the heart of Casablanca, and what happens? We build on the beach. We build cafes and restaurants because it's really nice to have your tea next to the beach, and then people get surprised when exceptional tides come and knock it all down. I mean, this is right on the main boulevard, the street that on the Casablanca waterfront. So we're taking more and more land and concreting it over. So just some quick case studies. They're not detailed case studies. They're more just like little views into some of these projects on the coast. So the first one is one of the Plan Azur projects on the Mediterranean Sea. It's in a town called Saidia, which is on the extreme eastern border of Morocco, neighboring Algeria, on a site of 91,000 hectares with about 6.5 kilometers of waterfront corniche, 2 golf courses, which I noted in Egypt also, the flavor of the decade. But if you look at this hydrological map, this is a 2-meter inundation level, and the project is situated in the heart of this region. So it's a zone prone to flooding. It's a semi-wetland, and that's where we're developing our tourist developments. And in addition to that, the dunes were raised. So the dunes, with all their different strata of vegetation, leaving only sand or beach grasses, which of course increases the susceptibility to flooding. So when I first came to know the site, this is what it looked like. This had been planned and designed, and it's just acres and acres and acres of hard space where vegetation struggles to survive because it's either inadapted or the nature of the soil isn't, etc., etc. Anyway, so we tried to be inspired from the natural planting on the dunes to create much more flexible, green, softer spaces. And when I said inspired by the vegetation, we couldn't reproduce it and plant local species because they simply don't exist in sufficient quantities in nurseries. So you have to kind of adapt, not be too purist. Using swales also to infiltrate water was a surface water. In the parking areas, we also used swales and changed the direction of the parking areas, so that we didn't have long, straight perspectives of hard tarmac, but they were always somehow interrupted by some green space. The Corniche de Sali is not a tourist site, but it's one of the biggest and most dense cities in Morocco. Which is really subject to coastal erosion, either by progressive cracking and fracturing, or scouring of basal scouring, or just by general coastline retreat. So here you see some images of wave action and the undercutting of the coast, and then so that the huge pieces just fall off into the sea. And so I'm not going to go into details, but as a compromise on this project, the municipality wanted green lawns and a park-like thing. So we kind of came to a compromise that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, that the what I call a garden landscape was created along the road, and the beach front or the seafront part was left so where nature could regenerate itself. And so here you see on the right the nature regenerating itself, and on the left the kind of more gardened, where you can see how the plants are struggling to survive. Taghazout Bay near Agadir is probably one of the more successful stories where you really find contextual landscape references through local materials, stabilization of slopes using rocks, and nature-based treatment of surface runoff. And even some of the hotels used wooden buildings to blend into the local landscape. One part of the project, which came much later, was to plan and design a beachfront plaza in a previously built-up area. So the space that you see here previously had the same buildings as you see in the background. And on royal order, it was ordered to demolish them all. This was after all the apartments had been sold already. They had to be demolished to give the waterfront space back to the public. And so even if you in a project, you go and show how all your planned actions go towards meeting sustainable development goals, things always get watered down. And so we ended up with much more paved over space that we wanted, but we tried to place it in such a way that when you walk through it, you don't perceive a huge, big plaza. And of course, nowadays, any place has to have an Instagram corner so that people can take nice photos. And then just lastly, in Greater Casablanca, this was a park which appeared in the Works with Nature document that the IFLA World Climate Change Group put together. And so it's an adaptive reuse of a quarry, and primary platforms were placed above potentially destructive high tides. We tried to use resilient plants adapted to salty sea spray, permeable paving, solar lighting, and drip irrigation, and with some bleachers which stabilized the quarry edge, which was made of really fragile stone. So we couldn't leave the exposed stone because it was really slippery and broke into tiny pieces really, really quickly. and then just a view showing the solar lighting, which enabled the space to be used at night as well. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Our crossing of the Mediterranean goes on. I'm asking Ivan from Croatia.
Okay, can you do it with that? Yes. So it's done. Good afternoon to everyone, and just let me. Yes. So I can take my time. Yes.
We still have to have lunch
Will be
before,
very,
you know.
very calm. So, okay. Good afternoon again. So the name of the presentation is The Corrupting Sea, and this is the green urban development strategy that Croatia started to develop in the last few years. And this has a lot of problems because this is a political document and it don't have the, it's not realized in the special plan. So they ask for landscape architects, but it don't have their role well defined in this document. So what we usually do, we do extensive analysis of the space. We don't draw master plan and design and everything, but we just put everything in Word. So because they are doing this document to apply for the European fund later. So this is a little bit problematic, but let's not go that way. So this is a green urban strategy of the city of Zadar, and Zadar have a long history that were defined in the Venetian time. So you can see the city near the name Zara, and this was a classical Venetian city that has their city walls. So after the Venetian there was different empires that owned the city, but the change that happened, it happened after the Second World War because the city was heavily bombarded and the city started to develop in the inland. So all the green spaces that were near the city were basically destroyed, and this is a topographic art of what the city is today. So this is somehow the first problem, because on the right you see the city, and part of the city are all of this island. So you have. If you want to use the pointer. Yes, this is the city of Zadar, and this is administrative part of the city of Zadar, and it's very strange because you skip some islands and they claim this and this one too. So it have a lot of problem. So when you look at the city today, they did the reconstruction of the city. They protected some parts, they demolished some city walls, and so this is the city today. This is actually on the city center. And this is the new waterfront, relatively new city waterfront that was built some 10 years ago. And you can see this is actually an interesting project, this one, that is called Morska Orgulje. It's base of the sea tide, you can hear the sounds of the sound of these organs, musical instruments. But in the other part of the city, it's developed not for tourism, but actually, yes, it's developed for tourism, but it's most part are infrastructure on a project. So when you go outside the city, you have the coastal part that's very different. It's not so developed, and now we feel that will change because the tourism is a very, very large factor in Croatia. Basically, our GDP is come from tourism. So this is one of the first analyses that was created in these studies, and this is the habitat typology of the administrative region of the city. So I didn't translate all these habitat types, but it's easy to understand. All the greens are forests and different type of forests, of degradation type or something like that. The orange, it's agricultural, and this is only the city, this gray one area. So in this other card, you can see all of the habitats that are regulated and protected in some way by the state and managed by the state. So you have a lot of forests and different type of degraded forest, and that's basically it. So, but when you look at the islands, the situation is very different. So if you remember the previous card, these are all forests in that habitat typology. But actually, this all it's agricultural land that, because people leave this island, will transform it. And you can see in this digital model how it's all the surface, how is encompassed by dry walls. So, and this it's a huge problem because now it's this is now a forest somehow, and it's managed by the city, not by the city, by the state company that manage the forests. And this island start to develop on a large tourism complex, so this will change and we'll lose basically the agricultural tradition and that we have in these islands. So in the next one is the habitat types of the marine part. And so just to show you that the amount of the habitats that are protected by the state. And this other card, it's a better view when you saw, when you look at the card on the right, all of the green areas and all the red areas are protected, and it's on part of the ecological network. And when you look in the Croatia, 40% of the state is basically under ecological protection. And this is somehow a problem because ecological protection is different from landscape protection, and the landscape it's a category that it's not so present when we are talking about nature protection or cultural protection. But basically all the administrative part of the city, it's under some type of protection. So, and another part that was analyzed, this is the land use of the city part, and you can see how the city is spread in the inland. So we have here forests and different type of vegetation, but actually the city start to erode all this part. So one of the requirements also in this strategy was to create a map of urban heat island. So the next card showing the impact of urban heat islands of this part of the city. So you can see how the city actually, the built part of the city, based on this methodology, have 4 grades more temperature than the surrounding area. So, but this methodology is somehow strange because it's very precise and actually don't tell you much how climate change and climate affects the land use during time. So the next analysis show you through 4 years how urban heat island and climate change affected the city. So these are subtle differences between all these cards, but this is a very different differences when you look at this part near the city. And you can see here how the capacity of the natural part, it starts to eroding, and the vegetation started a little bit to change and to adapt to these changes. So this is for the 2023-2024, and you can start to see an anomalies here in the 6th of 2024. You see how the vegetation is not able to lower the temperature about the land use that are not built environment. And so after that, it's not shown, but one analysis did that in the last 30 years, all the year temperature were extremely hot. So this is something that the city will have to deal in the future, but since we don't have any response to how to plan new vegetation and how to plan the city according to the future environment, this is an open question in this strategy. So in the last section, it's not reduced, but just to show you the result of the public survey. So the red one, it's a very bad response, and the blue one are very positive, and they are according to the city. So in general, the topic that all the question that was asked was if they agree with the policy of the city. So you can see on this left side that they don't agree. They don't agree how the green is planning, what the city is investing, if the mobility of the development, mobility and the transportation system, and so on. In this slide, it's also the results. And you can see the only question that they were actually very satisfied with was that they are very satisfied with the way that the city managed the green spaces. And this is for the end, another picture of the city. And thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm under time. Under time.
Under time, yes. You win the prize for the under time contribution. Nicolas, yes. Nicolas Coité from France.
Hi everyone, nice to be with you today. I will present you the project of Pamplonne Beach in Ramatuelle in the south of France. It's a large-scale landscape project where ecological restoration and economic interest were carefully balanced. This project costs approximately between 15 and 20 million euros, funded by the municipality, private stakeholders, and national agencies. It's one of the biggest coastal rehabilitation on the French Mediterranean. So to be sure you know Saint-Tropez, it's in the south of France between Marseille and Nice. It's the second French touristic department after Paris, and there is an international recognition of Saint-Tropez all over the world. So the Ramatuelle beach is 4.5 kilometers sandy shoreline in the south of the Bay of Saint-Tropez. It's on this part of Saint-Tropez. The Gulf of Saint-Tropez on this place is the little village of Saint-Tropez at this place, and it's a very famous gulf for the touristic access. And every day the beach at this place welcome around 30,000 visitors each day. So everyone come by car from this place to this place. and it make a different disease, and around the early 20th centuries. This success has severe downsides, like the dune system collapsing under erosions, natural habitats degraded or lost, and the shoreline was dominated by beach clubs, parkings, and dense infrastructure, cutting the natural dynamics between land and sea. So it's the aerial photo of in 2006, and we can see that the beach at this place is quite interrupted with different restaurants and access, and it's really artificial. And now it's at this moment, and there is a lot of work to put all the restaurants behind a new dune and keep the sands clear for to remember a beach is a sandy place and not a restaurant place. So the initial challenge, it's a degraded coastal system, and the key challenges include coastal erosions, dancing due to hard-net surface and disrupted sediment flow. Artificialization, nearly 80% of the beach occupied by human-made structures. An economic dependence on a high-end tourism model that relied on intensive beach use. And at the same time, environmental regulation, particularly the Loi Littorale, it's a coastal law in France that comes in around 1986, and requires the municipality to restore and protect natural spaces. So it's a big program to ensure that the coastal line is natural. I will explain you after. So here it's in the flood with the sea, and the dune is completely demolished, and make a lot of disease behind the dune and the agricultural place. Also for the activities, they were really close to the sand, and when there is a big flood, everything is demolished, and it causes a lot of disease. Also for the natural environment, and on this photo we can see a typical management before the work. So you come by road, there is a big park just behind the restaurant, and a lot of artificialization at the most proximity of the water. So sometimes it's not well arranged, and it makes a lot of disease on the coastal, on the natural environment just behind the beach, and everyone comes only for the water, and the complexity of the beach environment was completely forget. And we can see problems with activities and natural systems, very fragile system. Also a lot of consumption problems with parkings at the most proximity of the beach. So the project context, it's a really long action because it took place between 2006 and 2023. It was led by the raw material municipality, and it was aligning with French coastal law. The goal was protect natural areas while sustaining tourism. So it's a 3 steps project. The first step was led by a Leip landscape architect. It's to make a diagnostic, have administrative authorization, and make a financial plans to make this project okay. It was shared by the municipality and also the private operators on the beach for the restaurants, because there is some concessions. and they have to pay to make a different restaurants. The second step was between 2015 and 2023, and it was the technical finalization, the contracting with contractors, and the site supervision for the building. The third step, no with a F but TH, was the contractors groupments of landscape contractors and nurseries. It was a groupment between these both activities, and it was plant cultivations for the natural species, intervention on existing vegetation, and the general works and planting. So the methodology for, between the project was to remember that it was a large-scale landscape, and to be sure that between the beaches and all the landscape environment, to remember that it was a complex place, and also this place with the vegetation. Sorry. To keep in mind that the beach is a complex landscape mosaics with a lot of agriculture just behind the dunes, and also with the forest, agriculture and vineyard, and everything. Okay. To work also on the topography of the sand, the beach, and the complexity of this environment. And also I talked before about the coastal law about this place. It's quite complicated because restaurants comes before 86 can be on the beach, and the others have different activities. So there is a big work on each restaurant to know if they were here before, what are the surface, and how it changed in the temporary of the project. And also to put it in perspective with other issues of the activity. And nowhere there is floristic interest, different place where it's not a lot of interest, and to make the project a reality between the site and what is really happening. So the project is quite simple. The idea is to take off all the restaurants on this part and put behind the new dune in different places. And at the summertime, the restaurant can put a little place closer to the waterfront. So there is a topography work to remind the dune, make also some path for the visitors, and have a lot of work to make reversible activities in summer for the path, for the restaurants, and to have a natural space in winter. So the actions, the time of building of this project was to a selection of specimens to be preserved on this place, like tamarix, mulching and eradication of invasive species on the place, and also harvesting and protect species from the dune environment, and to put it in cultivation and planting 3 years after, to work with natural species on the dune, and also endemic plants and seeds on this place. There is also non-endemic plantation, non-endemic plants plantation, but Mediterranean plants, around 15,000 bushes and around 500 trees. And the result is this environment quite natural, just before we see before. And mix between economic and ecology, where the restaurants are in the backside of the beach, And also I've got satellites just close to the water, but with less constructions and reversible in winter. So the beach can keep its movement of natural activity, environmental activity in the winter time. So in conclusion, the idea, we can have a look of different maps. This is the initial access in 1950 when Brigitte Bardot started to come to be famous, and Saint-Tropez became the place to be. Between the 70s and 80s, starting off some restaurants on the seaside. C'est la coupable, Brigitte Bardot is the coupable. Yeah, at the end, the start of the project, sorry, we can see restaurants and parkings just behind. And now the project, it's not quite finished, but we can see that the restaurants are backside and the parkings become more natural, and the seafront is now open. And the next move is to, we don't see a lot at this moment, but in summer there is a lot of boats on the seafront, and the idea now is to put all the boats in a corner of the beach and to keep the sea view open. So the lessons we can imagine for this project is that the landscape architects are the key mediators of this project. Nature-based solutions deliver functional benefits. It's a replicable model for the Mediterranean coastal zone. Coastal protections requires bold landscape strategies. Nature-based solutions provide resilience, functionality, and Poplan is a living example of Mediterranean sustainability. And if you come next year in France for the World Congress, maybe you can go before to Saint-Tropez. It's the best place to have a good time in France. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. I'm calling now our crossing of the Mediterranean this time is going very, very far. Linus comes from Sweden. In fact, he's not part of the Mednet group, but part of Francesca's group on agricultural landscape. But he will talk about coastal questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Linus.
Thank you. Oh, there we are. I had to change the title a bit to fit the slide, but I will talk about ecologically productive landscapes within the catchment area of Lake Mälaren. And I would say I will showcase two projects from my firm. One that is a produced ecologically productive landscape, and one that is a protected ecologically productive landscape. So Lake Mälaren is situated on the stretches from the Baltic coast, 120 kilometers inland in Sweden. It meets the Baltic Sea at Stockholm, which is the capital of Sweden. It is the primary source of drinking water for over 2 million people, which is about a fifth of Sweden's population. So it's a very important source of water. Also, 25% of the land within the catchment basin is used for agriculture. There's also urban residential areas and industrial areas. And we have Stockholm, how did I use the pointer? Stockholm over here. And then it stretches inland to Västerås, which is over here. And the projects I will talk about is... Yeah, the pointer. So the first project is here. It's Johannesberg Wetland Park. That is the park that is the produced ecologically productive landscape. And the city of Västerås is right here. I think it's the fifth largest city in Sweden. And the other project is Arninge-Ulla Riparian Forest Park, which is situated here next to Stockholm. The Stockholm metropolitan region basically stretches from here all the way up here. It's quite a large region. This is Johannesberg Wetland Park, and this is the finished project. The entire area was non-arable rural land. It's situated next to a bunch of industries and an airfield, so it's land that was not suitable for, anymore for agriculture. But adjacent to it, you have a lot of agricultural lands. Like I said, it represents the man-made approach. It was a project commissioned by Västerås municipality, and it was a project within the EU environmental program LIFE IP, which was a project that promoted multifunctional water treatment facilities. And the purpose of the project was to create a multifunctional sedimentation-based water treatment facility and recreational park, which would clean the water from Kabelbecken, a water course running into, which runs off into Lake Mälaren. The site is roughly 14.5 hectares, and 6.5 hectares of that is water surface area. And the system is divided into 6 different retention ponds. You have the water course runs in from here, and then you have the water moves through the sedimentation ponds here, and finally empties out into the water course again, which I think that's running along here. I'm not entirely sure. Before it runs off into Mälaren again. And the catchment area for this treatment facility is 2,500 hectares, out of which 1,400 hectares is urban and industrial land, and about 1,100 hectares is agricultural and rural land. So the purpose of the park is to clean the runoff water from all this land before it empties out into Mälaren. The main design strategies were, first of all, elevating rather than hiding the man-made nature of the park. So it's a nature-based solution, but we didn't want to sort of hide the fact that it's a man-made, it's man-made nature, pretty much. Yeah. The second strategy was ecological education. So the idea is that this park is somewhere where people can come and understand how water works in society. I mean, what the function of these types of spaces are, and how important it is that we treat water before how important it is that we have these types of facilities, let's call it that. And it was also the third strategy was to create places for gathering and exploring within the park. Additional elements within the park were focal points and jetties. So if we go back to the site plan, the original idea was to have a system of jetties stretching from this point and then all the way around here, which became the focal point of the park and sort of elevated the man-made nature of the site. We used only native and cultural historic plants, and the criteria for plant selection was basically plants that were not introduced after the 19th century. The municipality of Västerås has a very specific definition of native planting. And the third additional element was that this is a habitat for bats, a very important habitat for bats, so no lighting was allowed within the park whatsoever. The second project is the Arninge-Ullna Riparian Forest Park, and this represents the protected, ecologically productive landscape. The park was commissioned by Täby, the municipality of Täby. It is approximately 3,000 hectares, and it is adjacent to a newly built residential area, a residential development, a rather large one, which you can see on the border here. And within the plan for this area, the idea was that this entire area would become the residential park for this area, or the city park for this residential development. However, when we started working with the municipality, we, pretty much after the first site visit, realized that the immense qualities that existed on site in terms of ecosystem services, in terms of opportunities for exploration, in terms of nature experience, were irreplaceable. So the idea of, cutting all this down and replacing it with lawns and newly planted trees, just for the sake of making a residential park, seemed like something that we would rather not do. So instead of that, we proposed to add an accessible layer into the forest. So we make the forest accessible, but we disturb as little as possible of the existing ecosystem. And these boardwalks are 2 meters wide, so the idea is that they are accessible by wheelchair as well, making this area accessible for people that wouldn't have the opportunity to experience this type of forest. And as you can see here, like on several sites along the boardwalk, we allow the existing vegetation to penetrate through the boardwalk rather than removing it. As you can see, for example, here, this was all made on site. So we made the design strategy, and the constructor sort of adapted it according to the principles that we developed. The third design strategy was to enhance the vistas and walkways, so to provide viewpoints onto the Lake Ullna, which is the lake adjacent to the riparian forest. Also making the water accessible for educational purposes, so promoting opportunities for ecological education. This is, for instance, a very simple thing, but stairs down to the water where kindergartens and school classes can come and use one of these. I don't know what it's called in English, but you put it into the water and you look down and you can see that life goes under as well. Also, we made several smaller walkways, which allows for more adventurous paths for exploration into the forest, especially on those areas that were rather inaccessible even for the broader boardwalks. Also, yes, thank you. The last element we added in order to create something more than just a regular nature experience was what we call ecological poetics. This is haiku tubes made out of weathered steel with poems with Nobel laureate Thomas Tranströmer, who is famous for making poems with ecological themes. So these were etched into weathered steel plates and backlit, and also complemented by signs of the native species within the forest. So these are placed at the vistas and sort of add an element of little bit of a mysterious element or an extra experience to the site. Also, we used power-coated gratings, both as an aesthetic choice, but also because it allows us to minimize the use of especially cut timber, which makes for smaller production costs. We also use mixed origin lumber for the boardwalks, so that when you, for maintenance purposes, when you have to replace one of these boards, when nature has run its course, it will allow for a sort of something that does not seem that it has been replaced. Maintenance is integrated into the design. And yeah, these were two examples that I think showcase how you can work with ecologically productive landscapes and design strategies, both for man-made nature and for protecting nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Linus. I think it's...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yes, I just wanted to highlight the importance of educational part in the landscape, that we also always have to think about, growing the generations that one time will be the decision makers. So that's a fundamental part of our communication mission. Sorry, Francesca, I didn't want to interrupt.
Sorry, you, because Linus was going away. But every presentation of this morning really very, very interesting, and this maybe because it's completely from another environment, so inspiring. Maybe you already said and I missed, but which kind of industry and which kind of agriculture is around the area? Thank you.
Yes, so let's move back. Basically, the type of agriculture is mostly wheat and rapeseed production, close to outside of Västerås. And the industry, I'm not sure. It's a lot of it's historically an industrial city, so I think it's concrete, for instance. I think they also have horseradish production. It's something that Västerås is famous for, and cucumber. Thank you.
Thank you. Our morning session will be closed by the intervention. Please, Antonella, come forward, of our chief editor of our magazine. IAP does have a magazine. IAP does try to communicate what our profession can offer. She will present this magazine. You didn't bring it. Where is it? To show. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm old-fashioned. I love, paper and all of these tangible things. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'm very glad to be here now, and I have to say thank you to the organization for this, for my invitation, representing the magazine Architettura del Paesaggio. That's the official publication of IAP, our National Association of Landscape Architects. IAP, first you met our president, Andrea Cassoni. And okay, the magazine was founded in 1998, and it's the first magazine, Italian magazine, completely dedicated to the design and the planning and management of landscape and open spaces. Now I present you very quickly the magazine. I have prepared my speech in Italian, so maybe I switch in Italian because you told me that
yes, we do
it
have
was
a
in Italian, so
translation.
it's more comfortable for me, so now I switch in that language. Allora, la rivista Architettura del Paesaggio è appunto uno strumento di AIAP, dell'associazione, e proprio in virtù di essere strumento dell'associazione è anche un mezzo attraverso il quale promuovere la cultura del progetto, del paesaggio e del giardino. Ecco, io mi vorrei soffermare molto su questa parola strumento, perché credo veramente che la rivista, ma in generale tutte le riviste, siano degli strumenti molto importanti nelle mani dei progettisti di paesaggio, perché possano consentire appunto di mettere in relazione le idee, ma anche le persone, quindi in qualche modo trarre ispirazione anche, no? Da sia i progetti di ricerca, ma anche i progetti come anche quelli che abbiamo visto stamattina, veramente alcuni, cioè, tutti molto interessanti. E la rivista è nata nel 1998, lo dicevo prima, ma l'ho accennato anche Andrea Cassone prima nel suo intervento, in un momento diciamo topico per la nostra disciplina, che è questo passaggio tra la fine del secolo scorso e l'inizio del nuovo millennio, che è caratterizzato da un notevole fermento culturale in tema di paesaggio, di discussione sul tema del paesaggio, e soprattutto segnato dalla firma importante della Convenzione europea nel 2000. E quindi io ci tengo molto appunto a presentare la rivista, che è una costruzione collettiva, perché io mi trovo in questo momento solo da un anno a dirigerla, insieme con me la collega Loredana Ponticelli, però io ho raccolto un testimone di un lavoro che è da 27 anni che si sta portando avanti, quindi sono passati 7 direttori, più di 80 persone che hanno lavorato nella redazione, e sono anche cambiati gli editori, insomma, della rivista, quindi c'è stato veramente una sorta di passaggio di testimone in cui ciascuno ha contribuito alla costruzione di questo prodotto. Questa idea appunto di fare relazioni, di costruire relazioni, è sempre stato un obiettivo di AIAP e della rivista. Nell'editoriale numero 1 del 1998, che è stato firmato dall'allora direttore e fondatore della rivista Alessandro Tagliolini, che è una figura molto importante per la nostra disciplina, che è architetto del paesaggio ma soprattutto anche scultore e storico dei giardini, lui scriveva in questo editoriale appunto che la rivista voleva che fosse proprio una piattaforma di discussione, di dialogo, e soprattutto che arrivasse anche non solamente agli esperti del settore, quindi che il più possibile riuscisse anche in qualche modo a far conoscere la figura professionale dell'architetto paesaggista, che sicuramente 27 anni fa aveva anche più difficoltà ad essere riconosciuta, e che comunque sappiamo, almeno in alcuni contesti, come insomma queste difficoltà continuano a sussistere. In questi 27 anni la rivista ha cambiato sia di forma grafica, c'è stato un restyling nella grafica nel 2013, e poi un altro passaggio importante nel 2016 è stata iniziata ad essere pubblicata bilingue, e quindi noi con questo appunto speriamo in qualche modo di riuscire anche ad attrarre appunto un pubblico degli interessati anche appunto oltre i nostri confini nazionali. Però è rimasto invariato questo obiettivo, quello proprio di fornire al lettore da un lato strumenti tecnici, per cui ovviamente pubblichiamo progetti, anche il più possibile diciamo disegni, anche per quanto insomma è una questione anche talvolta complicata da un punto di vista editoriale, pubblicare anche particolari esecutivi, eccetera, però accanto a questi contributi tecnici anche contributi culturali. Qui vedete le ultime 3 copertine della rivista, che sono dedicate un po' legate ad un filo conduttore, a partire da quel numero Paesaggi Fantasma, che è legato al convegno Lost Landscapes che si è svolto a Napoli nell'ottobre 2023, anche in concomitanza con la General Assembly di IFLA Europe. Quindi a partire da questo numero in cui si parlava appunto di paesaggi in qualche modo scomparsi, che però appunto vengono così rievocati e ritornano alla memoria, poi si è passati appunto nel numero successivo, questo Tracce, a parlare ancora del paesaggio come palinsesto, come giacimento di memoria in cui appunto leggere le tracce anche della trasformazione, fino all'ultimo numero uscito, che è questo Future Memorie, in cui appunto in qualche modo i paesaggi guardano al futuro. Non ho detto che la rivista è semestrale, quindi vengono pubblicati 2 numeri l'anno, ed è monografica, quindi appunto c'è un tema conduttore, come lavoriamo normalmente con delle call for projects che vengono mandate a tutti i soci, perché appunto la rivista è la rivista dell'associazione, quindi viene mandata a tutti i soci di Architettura del Paesaggio, di AIAP, però anche è diffusa attraverso i social media e altre insomma forme di comunicazione, quindi perché no, io spererei che qualcuno di voi magari possa in futuro anche rispondere a una nostra call. Adesso qua appunto ho estrapolato 2 o 3 immagini di progetti contenuti in questi ultimi numeri della rivista, che appunto vi dicevo sono legati da questo filo comune di far vedere come reinserire i progetti nel flusso della storia in qualche modo. Quindi noi, certo, ogni generazione ha la necessità anche di proteggere quelli che sono i paesaggi patrimoniali, però abbiamo anche un altro compito fondamentale, che è quello talvolta proprio per guardare al futuro, perché questi paesaggi si conservino, abbiamo il compito anche di reinterpretarli, anche di reimmaginarli, e quindi questi progetti appunto lavorano sul tema della decodificazione delle tracce, della evocazione poetica, interpretazione appunto del senso dei luoghi. Questi appunto sono solo alcuni esempi. La rivista ha una sezione dedicata ai progetti, che è quella più corposa, ci sono altre 2 sezioni dedicate agli strumenti, alle rubriche, riportano anche ci sono delle sezioni anche ricorrenti, non so, sui libri, sugli itinerari, sul glossario, cultura del progetto, eccetera. Una parte principale è dedicata alle letture, cioè a saggi brevi che ospitano appunto una lettura critica da parte appunto di sia professionisti, architetti del paesaggio, ma accogliamo anche contributi di altre discipline, e soprattutto non solamente nazionali, appunto. Abbiamo, come dire, un parterre di nostri anche collaboratori, autori, invitati, oppure anche su proposta degli appunto stessi autori, di partecipare appunto in funzione della call del numero alla costruzione del tematismo. I numeri che invece sono di prossima uscita, sono in lavorazione adesso e che quindi non vi posso mostrare, sono quelli dedicati appunto, l'ha ricordato prima Andrea Cassone, al compleanno di AIAP, quindi all'anniversario di questi 75 anni dell'associazione, per cui in questo numero noi diciamo trattiamo alcuni progetti che in qualche modo hanno segnato un po' la storia di AIAP, quindi ci sono dei protagonisti importanti come professionisti, come progettisti, ma che hanno anche avuto un ruolo all'interno dell'associazione. Diciamo che sono 2 volumi un po' italianocentrici, nel senso che ovviamente sono dedicati alla nostro festeggiamento dei 75 anni, però questo non vuol dire che sono solamente progetti italiani, perché appunto alcuni di questi autori, tipo qui nelle immagini ovviamente non poteva mancare ad esempio Pietro Porcinai, che è stato appunto un paesaggista importante che ha lavorato molto anche fuori Italia, e poi che hanno avuto, paesaggisti che hanno avuto anche tanti contatti con il mondo europeo o comunque diciamo globale. E mi piace qua ricordare solamente quella immagine a destra in alto, che appunto racconta di una nostra maestra, che è Maria Teresa Parpagliolo, che qui è appunto ritratta all'assemblea del 1948, alla conferenza del 1948 a Londra, che appunto ha partecipato alla costituzione poi di IFLA insieme a Porcinai ed Elena Luzzatto. Quindi saranno 2 numeri per i quali abbiamo abolito la usuale formula di call for projects, quindi in questo caso abbiamo fatto una call for projects interna, cioè rivolta solamente ai soci che hanno così risposto segnalandoci progetti o libri o insomma eventi che secondo loro avevano un'importanza per segnare questa storia dell'associazione. Invece dopo il 2025 ritorneremo su trattare altri temi monografici, probabilmente ci stiamo lavorando adesso, tratteremo del tema del turismo, e per cui sono molto contenta anche di aver visto dei bei progetti, delle belle possibilità insomma di anche trovare non so, espressione anche sulle pagine della nostra rivista. La rivista in uscita conterrà appunto un saggio della nostra presidente IFLA Europe, Caterina Glozio, e della quale appunto ringraziamo e siamo veramente molto, molto contenti, quindi abbiamo potuto metterla in anteprima appunto perché ancora non l'abbiamo stampata, ma avverrà a breve. E chiudo, quindi ho finito semplicemente dicendo che la rivista è cartacea, e anch'io, Uta, ci tengo molto che sia cartacea. Ora ho alcuni numeri e li porto, però l'editore adesso, che è Maggioli, ha anche attivato la possibilità di avere la versione digitale, quindi PDF, e quindi questo credo che possa essere insomma un valore aggiunto. E un'altra novità nella rivista è che sono stati attivati gli abbonamenti, quindi è possibile abbonarsi annualmente per 2 numeri o per 4 numeri biennale, quindi attraverso il sito di Maggioli, dell'editore, è possibile appunto acquistare la rivista. Io ho finito e vi ringrazio. No, sì, l'ho detto.
Thank you very much. We are perfectly in time. Please note that even with the starting delay, we were sort of able to catch up with time thanks to someone who has done a smaller contribution. My real thanks goes to everyone who has exposed their contributions this morning, and I'm sure that also this afternoon you'll enjoy the variety and the diversity of approaches and of experiences of our colleagues. Lunch. We are all hungry at the moment. Lunch will be served upstairs on the ground floor. There is a nice sort of greenhouse on the top. You will follow the smell, I think, and guide you towards the food. We come back here at 2 o'clock, please, for our afternoon session. Lunch, of course, is generously offered by IAP and IFLA Europe and Bauhaus for Med. Thank you very much.